All right, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's presentation from Manufactured Myth and Legerdemain. Tonight, we've got a very special two-parter for you folks. Normally on a Friday night, we do Friday night one-shots, but this is more of a two-shot, so I didn't want to be accused of false advertising. Tonight, we present to you Dune Overture, which is going to be a bit of a prelude to the main Dune story. So, tonight's adventure takes place in the known universe, which is a vast and large and immensely difficult span to travel. Humanity is scattered across immense and nearly inconceivable distances and ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. So the spice melange, commonly referred to simply as the spice, is a naturally produced mind-altering narcotic that has been the fundamental building block of commerce, culture, and technological development in the known universe for millennia. So the spice plays an important role in space travel as it enables guild navigators, humans who consume immense amounts of the substance, to safely guide starships through warp space. So the spice is the rarest and most valuable commodity in the known universe, and since its discovery several thousand years ago, the spice has been exclusively found on one planet. In approximately 10,130 AG, which stands for After Guild, House Harkonnen won the planetary fief of that one planet, and House Harkonnen's responsibility was to mine it and supply it to the universe. So through their persecution of the local people, humans living in tribes known as the Fremen, the Harkonnens managed to pay the tithe they owed to the Padishah Emperor and keep a substantial amount of spice melange for themselves. So several decades later, however, it is time for House Harkonnen's planetary fief, control of the one planet, to shift to another house. And so we pick up our story at this time and on this one planet. So the year is now 10,191 AG after Guild, and the place is Arrakis, Dune, the desert planet. So tonight, I have with me some very good friends who I've been playing with for years. Some I've been playing with since actually high school. Thank you guys very much for joining us. I appreciate you watching as we play Dune Adventures in the Imperium for the very first time. We're streaming it, which makes me extremely nervous, but honestly, so what? It's all just in the name of fun. So tonight, why don't we go around and why don't we have everybody introduce themselves? You'll see like a little name for everybody underneath their respective Zoom boxes. But let's hear a little bit about each person and the character that they're going to be playing tonight. So, Steve, why don't we start with you, if you don't mind?
Sure. So my name's Steve, and today I'm going to be portraying Diverian Lusk,
Mhm.
who is kind of a shifty little guy. He's a little conflicted in his allegiances. He's certainly, born into the Fremen, but he also believes that there's something better out there, and so he's kind of made some friends and contacts with the Harkonnen Empire,
Mm.
which he's certainly his eyes are open to possibly different things out there.
Got it. So you're playing somebody that's a little bit maybe interested in what's going on outside of what is happening there on Arrakis within your own Fremen culture, I guess. Is what you're
Correct.
saying. Got it.
That's correct.
All right, let's keep rolling around through here, and let's go to Dean. Dean, can you tell us a little bit about who you are playing tonight?
We Fremen have a saying: God created Arrakis to train the faithful. One cannot go against the word of God. That being said, I am Fader Khan, and Fader Khan is a true Fremen. He doesn't go against the word of God, and he is faithful. He believes in the words of Stilgar and all the elders, and he walks that path.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I'm starting to see a little bit of conflict brewing and developing. It's almost as if we had a session zero to talk about this. How interesting. All right, let's keep rolling right through here. Um, and actually, I have to say this: awards, the points for cosplay and being in character tonight. Truly, Larry, this surprised all of us. This is great. And Steve he mentioned, he's like, Larry, have you become a priest? But it's a very Dune-ish outfit that you're wearing. Larry, who are you playing tonight?
Well, thank you, Matt, for that wonderful introduction. I'm Maurice Spotty. I am not a Fremen, although I do dwell on Arrakis and have taken on the role of somewhat of a Fremen elder, especially when people are seeking guidance regarding other worlds in the known universe.
Mm-hmm.
I was exiled at a very young age from my home world of Ix, and as a result, I am a bit of a recluse, a bit of a loner, because quite frankly, an outsider filling that elder role is difficult in Arrakis.
And where was it? I just want to double check one thing here so I don't screw up the adventure. Where was it that you said that you were originally from?
Ix.
Ix. Okay, right. So Ix.
Or
Um,
9, depending upon how you read it.
oh, yes. That's right. Well, Larry,
No,
you've
it's
never
the
listened.
ninth planet in the system. That's
It's
why
the
it's called Ix.
you've never listened to the audiobook, I see. But that's all right. You actually
I have not.
read the printed matter, the printed material on the page.
Precisely.
Um, let's keep rolling through and let's talk to my good buddy Jarod. Jarod, can you tell us a little bit about who you are playing?
Sure. I'm playing Tyros Balosh Dimitri. He usually goes by TBD. He is a sort of a warrior scholar. He is a traditional Fremen, but has sort of received a calling as a younger kid who believes that the Shai Hulud, the
Mm-hmm.
infamous sandworms, kind of speak to him, particularly through dreams. And he believes that they have shown him that there are vast stores of water underneath the crust, and it's sort of up to him to help release that water and turn Arrakis into the paradise that the Fremen deserve.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, we're going to be playing Dune: Adventures in the Imperium. And if any of you have checked out the game, first of all, it's a super cool game. But second of all, you may have noticed that it's actually quite complex. Well, no, you know what? That's sort of there's two sides to that coin. It seems complex because I think it's a little bit different than the way that a lot of games are presented. But I have this funny feeling. I have this kind of this feeling in my head that it's actually not as complex as people think. So tonight we're just going to play the game and have fun with it. We're not going to worry about the rules too much, though I have taken a nice look through them and all of us have kind of reviewed them, but we're not going to worry too much about those. We're mostly going to concentrate on telling a good story, and we're going to concentrate on having fun and maybe even having some laughs in the process. So just to sort of give everybody the basics of the game. Adventures in the Imperium is a roll low system. So most systems you have a challenge number or a number that you have to sort of beat in order to win. But with Adventures in the Imperium, you actually have to roll low. And characters are made up of skills and drives. Skills are things like battle, communicate, discipline, move, and understand. Drives are duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. And so skills are maybe the abilities that you have. They represent your training and your expertise, while drives represent the context and maybe the motivation of the characters. So these two things are generally combined to create a target number. So if someone is doing battle out of a sense of duty, their battle is 3, their duty is 2, they are combined to make a 5. So that means that the player must roll 5 or below in order to successfully succeed. So with that idea in mind, that is the very, very, very most basic form of conflict resolution in the game. We'll get into maybe some more details later on in the game, but for right now, let's just start with the narrative. So we did have a session 0 with most of the players, and when I say most, I mean everyone except Jarod.
Call him out, why don't you?
It happens.
It happens. That's okay. That's pretty natural. That's what usually happens.
And yet Jarod seems more prepared than the rest of us.
That is always the case.
You know what? That doesn't actually, in some ways, it doesn't surprise me. Jarod, in some ways, is probably more prepared. He's definitely our rules man, and so he's the guy that kind of knows usually the rules inside and out. And when Jarod is nervous about something or doesn't know it, that makes me nervous. So we'll see what happens. Do we want to briefly kind of introduce, and again, we're going to play the way that we would normally play. Do you guys want to sort of introduce yourself, your dynamic, perhaps to Jarod, and then Jarod can kind of sort of tell us how he fits into his role? So I do know, and let me know if I'm wrong here, but I do know that, of course, Diverian is a little bit interested in what's going on off-world and with technology and gadgets and things like that. I know that Fader, of course, has set himself up as being a devout follower of Fremen culture and Fremen ways. And then I know that Riss is actually an off-worlder who has come to Dune in order to sort of embed himself among the Fremen. Can we talk about maybe the dynamic of how Tyros fits into all of that?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely more of on the traditional side. I'm more siding towards Fader and the legacy of all the teachings that we've had so far. The only place where I really start to diverge is so I guess my relationship with the worm specifically, and also the Mahodi, which is the sort of the prophet that is going to be coming later on. Right? Most people believe that it's a person. I actually think it's water itself and the water that gets released from the planet. So it's a little bit of divergence, but it's still more traditional than Diverian, definitely.
Okay, cool. So as far as that goes then, what would say your relationship to each other be? How do we kind of feel about each other as far as being part of the tribe goes?
We're all technically in the same tribe. Is that what we decided?
Tribe? Yes. Okay. Yes.
My ideology towards everything, like I said, of course, Tyros, you and I see eye to eye. I am a, absolute devout, Fremen as far as my beliefs and everything else. I'm a full-on warrior. Uniquely I use 2 Chris knives as opposed to 1.
Nice.
Actually been developing, my own battle techniques and so on and so forth with that ideology in mind. As the Fremen sayings go, Fremen write poems to their blades. And of course, perhaps I'll share it with you guys sometime.
Nice.
The story of Sam.
We could do that as a separate stream. We'll do like a separate stream where we'll all be in the audience, and then you'll be like in the center, Dean, and we'll all be like sitting there and just listening to your as you recite your poetry. Hopefully better than a Vorlon or a Vogon, a Vorlon. Sorry, wrong science fiction. Babylon 5
as soon as he
reference.
Said poetry,
sorry.
I was thinking Vogon. I mean, that's awesome.
So, of course, there is that that aspect to who Fader is. He respects Riss a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But he still looks at Riss in some respects as an outsider.
How does Fader and Riss, actually, let me ask you this. Riss, how do you feel about Diverian's feelings about off-world? Do you feel like he's being overly romantic about it? Do you sort of feel like, okay, he's kind of on the right track?
I would definitely dispel any of the overly romanticized visions of what's outside of Arrakis, absolutely. Primarily because it is all treachery and backstabbing and politics, and it's not as straightforward a life as we've found here. But ultimately, though, the main conflict, I think, in the group, rather, in our little tribe, is that Reese is more prone toward, the power of humanity, the power of technology that we create in order to make our lives better. And his faith is a little shy on what the rest of the group may be experiencing. He's low on the faith scale.
Okay, then let me ask a question to you, Diverian. And the reason I'm kind of going somewhere with this because I want to introduce like some ideas here that Adventures in the Imperium uses. But Diverian, how do you feel about this situation? Because there's kind of like this little triangle going on, right? Where, if I'm correct here, you kind of see Riss as being like kind of a cool role model in a way because he's an off-worlder that has off-world ways, but still he's got the cool. He represents both the stuff from the off-world and stuff from Fremen culture. But then we have Fader here, who is your elder, and of course is deeply embedded. Well, not even embedded. He is part. He's a pillar of the tribe. He's a pillar of the tribe, right? That sort of sets the tone and the mood of the tribe, who maybe isn't so happy about this. How do you fit between these two?
Well, I
Is
guess
there tension or?
Yeah, I think there probably would be some tension just in that Deverian is kind of like, even though he's not a teenager, but it's kind of that rebellious teenager thing where where you have a parental figure who I would see Fader as, and and if he says black, I say white, just for the virtue of saying it.
Just to
Yeah.
piss off your elder.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, I think I still have that cultural respect, but
I think it's
seething
more of a
underneath the
challenge.
surface. Yeah, seething underneath the surface is, yeah, you guys think you know everything, but I know there's other stuff out there, and I think where Reese fits into that is he's seen that other stuff, and so even though he's probably trying to guide me and steer me away from thinking that I know too much, still I see him as somebody that I think I respect both of them.
Sure.
But I see Reese as somebody who has seen more, whereas Fader is somebody who, while is a true believer in something very powerful, maybe I see him as naive when in truth I'm probably the one that's the most naive.
Right, because you're kind of like this puppy, and you see the
Yeah,
two.
and I'm saying, I'm almost thinking like, well, I don't want to be like everybody else, so obviously the other is better,
Right.
even though I've never seen the other.
Right. So would it be fair to say that there is some sort of tension perhaps between Fader and Riss? And when we add in Diverian and he's kind of in the same scene, is it possible that he's torn in two different ways, or is that not fair to say? What do we think?
I've already admitted at the beginning that I'm pretty well isolated from the tribe. I mean, I'm still a member, I'm still an elder, but I live a distance away from the center of where the tribe lives. That I am kind of that outcast. So yeah, I mean, I understand the dynamic and definitely understand that I could cause the leadership of the tribe some discord. So I'm a little careful with that. I'm a little diplomatic. I mean, after all, that's my training. I originally was an envoy for my house. So as a result, I understand that I need to maintain that distance. But if asked, I'll advise. So.
And as far as Fader's concerned, you'd more like see it like, Fader understands that there is a massive galaxy out there. There's, there's the known universe. It's just that the rest of the universe is wrong, and we know the Fremen way is right. So, I mean, and as they say, as has been said in the books and everything else, to control a thing, you must understand a thing. So, I understand.
Let me ask
and
then.
So does Tyros.
I was going to say before Fader speaks for Tyros, are you on the same wavelength as that?
Yeah, like like 80, 85, 90% of it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
The
but
only
you're
little divergence is right at the end, but otherwise, yes, the Fremen way is the right way, and we know, and absolutely.
okay, but you're still focused on that water and bringing
That's it.
paradise to Arrakis.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay, cool. All right, so here's what I'm going to say, and now this is one of the rules of the game here, and again, we're just experimenting with this and having some fun. I'm going to call a trait into order, into the scene now. Any scenes in which Riss, Fader, and Diverian are together in, I'm going to say that there is a bit of tension going on, and so there's one level of tension that increases the difficulty level of anything that happens. So we're just going to see how this works. And they may wish to argue with me at a certain point, and well, when I say argue, I just mean maybe negotiate with me, I think is a better word, because I don't think there's nothing adversarial between the GM and the players. But we may negotiate that trait out of scenes, but I'm always going to be factoring that in, and if I don't remember that, please remind me. I'm sure all of my
Okay.
players will. Please remind me that it's one level tougher, no matter what you do. Okay, so let's start off then just by asking this. Typically, what would you be doing as a group? What would you be? I have some ideas for things you might be out doing, but what would you be doing out as a group in the sands of Arrakis?
Searching for water.
Yep. That's
Anyone
my
else?
usual.
Training.
Praying?
Training.
Oh, training. Got it.
Training. To the extent I can, I will also be studying geology, the planet, and the worms if we ever contact any of them.
Meditation.
That works.
Okay. And then Diverian, how about yourself, if anything?
Yeah,
Tagging
I think
along?
I'm more of a tag along, almost like the workman on the construction site that kind of has to be kicked to do anything.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
kind
you're
of
the Union guy.
lost in my own thoughts.
Yeah, you're like Luke Skywalker looking up at space. Never your mind
Right.
on what you're doing, on where you are, what you're doing.
Correct.
Okay, well, I'm going to start things off here and just get things going for our two-parter. So the four of you are in the vast deserts of Arrakis, and you're something like half a day's journey or so, maybe from the city of Arrakeen, and you are not too far. Or I'm going to say no, you are maybe another half day's journey from your siege, which is to say the place where you reside, the place where your tribe lives. And actually, were it not for the traces of Dune's one of Dune's largest cities, Arrakeen, on the horizon, the desert landscape would basically be indistinct from any other. But you four are all seasoned Fremens, except perhaps for you, Diverian, a little bit wet behind the ears, and maybe not quite as experienced as the other four. Um, the four of you find yourselves out once again doing those things that we just mentioned. So you are searching for sources of water. You have taken the opportunity to maybe use this as a time to bond, or maybe just a time to sort of talk, or perhaps even just a time to air your grievances. Fader, you of course are looking at this as an opportunity perhaps to just sort of train your patience level when it comes to these other two. Um, there's some rumors and some problems going on. So the rumors are that the Harkonnens, which have been treating the Fremen, of course, horribly for many decades now, are actually on their way out, and they have been removed as for their control of Arrakis. And this, of course, is good news. On the other hand, they are being replaced by some other group. You're not really sure who. A rival house, the Atreides. Atreides or somebody like that, but they're not scheduled to be here for another few months. But this is now a transitionary time in which the Harkonnens are leaving Arrakis, and an acting governor has been placed in charge. The governor's name is Count Fenring. And he, of course, will be just watching over Arrakis and making sure that the transition is a smooth one, because those devious Harkonnens are known for double deals and triple backstabbing and all kinds of horrible things like that. None of which you guys sort of find to be too unrealistic, except maybe one of you, if you choose to speak up about that, or not. Oh, or do.
Hey, the Fremen have a tendency to over exaggerate everything.
And so, oh, go ahead.
Basically, the Harkonnens are the worst kind of people ever. They're less than people in most cases.
Agreed, Elder. Atreides, the House Atreides will treat us better, I believe.
And so, with this in mind, your general feeling, those of you that don't trust the Harkonnens, is that they're going to try to get as much spice as they can before they are essentially kicked off Arrakis. But you're not really quite sure about that. Now, on the other hand, there are regularly smugglers that land on Arrakis, and they do their best to dig up as much of the spice as they can and then get off planet before worm sign. And so it kind of goes almost without saying that, of course, I think the most famous creature from the Dune saga is the sandworms. And these are enormous creatures which essentially they excrete the spice melange, which is refined into the spice which is used to cause prescience in human beings in some cases, and also to fuel the guild navigators. So the four of you are out, and you're wary of the fact that Arrakis is changing hands, and it's now with an interim government. You are aware that there may be smugglers trying to take advantage of the fact that it is changing hands, and you're also aware of the fact that the Harkonnens may in fact be trying to take advantage of the whole situation themselves and just simply grab as much spice as they can, and maybe even lay some vengeful traps for whoever it is that's taking over. You're also aware of one other thing, and that is that several of your fellow Fremen have gone missing this past week. And it is in an area nearby, you think, but you're not 100% sure. The last that they were heard from was in this area, somewhere halfway between your Siege and Arrakeen. So, with that in mind, is there anything in particular that you'd like to be doing at this moment? Or I haven't given you anything to go off of.
I mean, is someone coming to alert us of what they expect, or have we already been dispatched to go find out what's going on? I mean,
I am willing to play with that, but the idea is that you are out looking for water. You're looking for sources of water. And you are free to come back whenever you feel that the mission is over. I can play with that though if there's something you'd like to perhaps build someone to come to meet you, a contact or something.
What have we heard about the disappearance? Was there any foul play suspected? Were there any traces left? Would we know any of it?
How you suspect? I'll give you this without even having to roll. Essentially, you suspect foul play. Everyone suspects foul play. I'm not sure about you, Diverian, Because the foul play is suspected on the side of the Harkonnens. It could also be the smugglers. So it's
It's
up to
probably the
you.
smugglers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking you would think, whereas perhaps Fader or Riss or Tyros might chalk it up more to.
Were these younger members of the tribe, like Diverian's age?
They were actually, as a matter of fact, they were around Diverian's age.
What did you know about them? Were they anxious as you to get off the planet?
Diverian, why don't you go ahead and tell us what they were like?
I didn't really know them all that well, but as far as I knew, they were kind of mama's boys. I couldn't see them trying to do anything out of the ordinary. They probably just got caught up with the wrong smugglers. They probably stumbled on a spice chain and got, maybe they saw too much.
And you believe smugglers will be capable of taking on Fremen in their own backyard?
They weren't really fighters like you, Fader.
Not many are fighters like me.
Fader, stop being so modest. It
Were they
is true,
taken-
though. Go
Were
ahead.
they taken in
Regardless,
transit?
I heard two people and I'm confused.
Were
I need
they taken
students
in-
to raise their hand.
Were they taken in transit, or were they at sort of their residence when they were taken?
They were taken in transit. They were oh, I see what you're saying. They were not in the siege. They were out on missions of their own. As a matter of fact, now that you think about it, it may have been while they were out looking for water.
Okay. We do know
Is this a common
the timing.
occurrence?
This is the point.
This
Fremen
is
have-
not common. Go ahead.
Fremen
I'm
have
sorry,
lived
Fader.
on Arrakis since Arrakis was. It's our home. We don't get lost. The desert doesn't consume us. So how is it 4 Fremen soldiers or 4 of the faithful could be taken with no clues, perhaps? And you believe smugglers are capable of this? Smugglers haven't been capable of taking anything from us when we catch them.
So I will say this. I really like where you guys are going with this. So here is how I view these, and we'll say there were two of them that were taken. The way I see it is this: they were young and naive, but as Diverian was describing, but as Fader was describing, they were also the faithful. So they were faithful, and almost perhaps to a fault. And so they were culturally very much Fremen. And they were exemplars, perhaps, of young Fremen. And maybe they were a little bit, like Davirian was saying, a little bit naive, but they were also very much who the tribe is. They were very much like that pillar that Fader is for the tribe. So the idea that they would just sort of disappear into the desert, that's a little odd.
As for clues, it's going to be difficult to find anything in all the sand, of course. I say we continue with the water, but keep our eyes open.
This is acceptable. But since we seem to be headed to the same portion of the deserts they were in, we can also look for clues.
Right. Eyes open. I agree.
All right, so the four of you, unless there's someone that would like to offer a differing opinion, the four of you continue into the desert looking for water. Careful, of course, to walk without rhythm so you do not attract the worm. Moving and looking for opportunities to move across rock or hard desert hard desert palette, I believe the word is, but I might be wrong with that, in order to avoid creating vibrations. But at the same time, you are, of course, looking for possible sources of water. Who here is, I guess, Tyros, you would be most concerned with looking for water. So why don't we have you go ahead and make the knight's first roll to see if you're able to find this water. So here is basically how the system of Adventures of the Imperium works. So for a skill test, essentially the player describes an action that they want to do, and I as a game master decide on a skill. But we can kind of, again, negotiate this. And I assign a difficulty rating from 0 to 5. So the player will choose a drive. So I pick the skill, the player chooses the drive. And with that, that of course creates the target numbers. So if the skill is a 2 and the drive is a 3, that creates a target number of say 5. Now, the player rolls 2d20, and then everything that is 5 or under is considered to be a success. And then those successes go against the difficulty rating. So if the player scores 2 successes, then and my difficulty is 2, then the player succeeds. So in other words, I as a GM, this is a little bit different than Cypher system, but I as a GM need to tell my players what the difficulty rating is. So I'm just going to set it, because we're making our first roll, I'm going to set it at 1. So why don't you go ahead and tell me, I'm going to say your skill would have to be understand.
Okay.
Is there a
I was gonna
particular
argue if it
drive?
wasn't.
You're gonna argue. Okay. So understand. What's your understand rating, just so that we kind of know?
My understand is a 6,
Oh, good.
but I would also like to apply the focus of geology.
Oh, cool. Okay, so when you apply the focus, that essentially means that instead of having to roll under that grand total, all you have to do is roll underneath your focus level, right? The level
No,
of that.
if I roll a 1, that's a
Oh.
crit. But if I roll under my focus, it's a crit.
Yes,
So
that's right.
My crit
That's right.
range is now 1 to 6.
Yes, exactly. And a crit, of course, counts as 2 successes. So a crit is normally a 1, but now Jarod has the chance on any roll from 6 to 1, that is a crit. So it's going to be 2 successes. And then, so what drive are you going to select?
I'm going to select the drive of duty.
Okay. What's your
my rank is 8, and my statement is I quench my tribe's thirst.
And this fits with it. My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. So go ahead and make your roll, and essentially a roll of 6 or under is going to be a crit. It's going to be 2 successes, and a roll under 14 is going to be just a success.
All right. Before I make that roll, I have a talent called Dedication, which says that if at the beginning of the scene we don't have any points in our momentum pool, I can roll a dice, and if I roll my discipline or under, I can add 1 to the pool.
Okay. Of course, you have no momentum, because I couldn't find anything that anyone starts with. I know you start with determination points, but I couldn't find anything on momentum.
You don't start with any in your pool. No.
Yeah, you just...
That was close. I rolled a 7.
A 7.
And I needed a 6 or lower.
Right. So, but did you roll both dice?
No, that was just for my dedication roll to
Got it.
create a point in the game.
Oh,
So I missed our point by 1.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
No problem. Go ahead and make your standard roll then. 2d20.
All right. I rolled a 4 and a 13.
A 4 and a 13. So that's 2 successes, and then 3 successes. 2 successes on the below the 6 or below, and then just a standard success. So 3 successes. That is more than enough. And what that means is this: my challenge level was 1. He rolled 3 successes, so that takes these 2 extra successes go into the group's momentum pool, and momentum can be spent in order to change or adjust things in the scene, or change roles, or be spent for certain things. So basically the group has 2 momentum points which I will write down but probably forget. So I hope somebody in the group writes that down.
I just did. I got him.
Got it. So success. But guess what? It's not actually success. It's a different kind of success. And what you notice is a very strange image of two figures, hands behind their head, being led through the desert at the top of a dune, and then it disappears as if it were a mirage. And then it reappears again. And what you swear is that there are shadows behind them. But that's not possible because you can see now the sunset as evening comes on, and then they disappear again. And what you realize is that a sandstorm is actually coming. And the shadows behind the two with their hands on the head as they're being led through the desert, well, that's either they're being hidden by the sandstorm or they're a mirage in and of themselves.
Do we all see this or just Tyro?
I was just gonna say.
Just Tyros. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
But
I
I'll
would
have to say, did everyone else see that? And if not, I'll give them a description of what I saw.
Okay. Anybody want to do anything with that?
How far away from us is that image?
I'm gonna say it's the. This is. I have no idea. I've never traipsed through the desert. I'm gonna say it's half of. No, I'm gonna say it's 3/4 of a football field.
Okay.
Desert ecologists, please don't start blowing up the chat. I know that there's hundreds of desert ecologists in the chat right now that are watching this stream carefully, waiting to leap on my errors.
And the image just lasts a couple seconds.
It's a couple seconds.
basically?
It's yes, and then the sand kind of like a cloud of
Right.
sand blows through, and what you realize is that there is a sandstorm coming, which could be a level.
Is this typical? Is this typical happening? Does this happen to you often, Tyros? Do you get these visions and so on and so forth?
I would say occasionally, but it happens more in my dreams more than awake. So it's a little bit more rare to have it happen awake.
Okay, and then I look at you and a waking dream. Perhaps we need to be more aware of what's going on. Perhaps even this is a warning from Shia Lud.
Or perhaps it's someone using some technology to mask our poor fellows that have been taken. I say we make our way over toward where you saw this vision. Can you take me there, Tyros?
You see, when you say something about technology, you see Fader kind of look at you and glare just a hair and then go, perhaps.
So there's that tension. That's why I put that one trait in there.
That's why
I'll ignore that for
that's
a
what I'm
minute,
using.
and I'll say sure, and I'll lead him on to where I think I saw it.
Diverian,
I'll
can
warn everybody, by the way, of the sandstorm coming in, just in case everyone missed it.
Does
And-
everyone have their Frem kit?
Absolutely.
Then the sandstorm shouldn't be a problem.
Well, I was going to say the sandstorm is actually good for one more trait. So traits are things that are added to scenes in order to make them a little bit more difficult. And as I was sort of mentioning before, a trait is the triangle of tension going on between Riss, Fader, and Diverian. I'm going to add a second trait in the form of the sandstorm, which as you walk toward the vision that Tyros saw, you come to realize is a little bit more serious than you had first thought. It's up to you how you want to feel about it, but it's not quite the everyday average sandstorm that you thought it might be. So now, how do you want to approach this? Are you just going to walk straight in there? Are you going to try your best to sort of stay hidden? Hide behind grains of sand in the desert?
Is it a haboob?
Oh my God. Is that a Dune term or like an Arabic term?
It's an actual real Arabic term, and it's
Cool.
what they call the really massive storms that jump up out of nowhere down in Arizona.
I'm gonna say it's okay. So the thing that I'm picturing is like I think there was something like that in Mission Impossible. I'm not picturing it as that yet. I'm not gonna guarantee that it won't become that, but it looks kind of serious. Looks like it's gonna be a bit of a mess coming up.
Well,
How much
perhaps
time do you
someone
think we
should.
have?
Yeah.
How much time
Um,
do you think we have?
half an hour.
Well,
Okay,
if we're
so we,
gonna save these guys from these smugglers, we got to act pretty fast, don't you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say we'd be marching straight in. And maybe even one of us branch off and find shelter while the rest of us take care of what we see.
So one
No?
of you, who's gonna branch off?
never split the party.
That's a horror movie,
I'm
not
adding 17
science
threat
fiction.
points for that.
All right. Well, in the meantime, I'm pretty laser focused on this, and I'm got dedication myself. Can I go ahead and see if I can add to our momentum pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got dedication as a talent as well. So
So then,
Cool.
oh, go ahead.
I rolled a 3, so I added 1 to our
Nice.
pool.
Go ahead. All right, so you're up to 3 now, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not
We're
even
gonna
gonna.
need it for the storm.
Got it. Okay. So with that, then you begin your approach. Who is veering off? I'm totally fine with that if you want to. That's not a problem.
You know what? I can add to that, even though, like I said, we don't agree all the time.
Hmm.
I have I'll use my discipline,
Yeah.
which is survival, desert resolve,
Hmm.
and I guess it would be duty as well, the siege
Hmm.
before all others,
Hmm.
in order to try to bring that together. So I need to roll under a 14,
Well, now wait a minute.
or what is it?
So what are you doing here, Dean? I'm a little unclear.
Basically looking for proper shelter.
Okay, so why don't we call that? Oh, all right, I see. You're going to use discipline. Yes, I'll call it that. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead and make your roll. So you need to add that to your drive statement, and then that represents the target number, and anything under that is a success. But if you have, a focus in that, then it becomes a crit.
Okay, then I do. I have survival. I have a
Mm-hmm.
focus in survival,
Mm-hmm.
desert resolve.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So what's your target number?
14,
14. Got it. And then what's the skill number or the skill level?
7.
7. Okay, so 7 or under is a crit.
Okay. So do I roll 1 die for the momentum pool first, or do I just roll
Yeah,
the
I
2
think
die?
that goes first, right? Yeah,
Okay.
just go ahead and do it. No problem. Let's just have fun.
Oh, great. I rolled a 4.
Okay, that does it. So we get a momentum. So you guys have 4 momentum now.
All right, let's see what I get here. I wrote a 11 and a 1.
11 and so that's 3
Nice.
successes. The 1 counts as 2, and then the 11 is under 14, so that is another 1. So you've got 3 successes. I didn't actually
And plus
set.
my focus.
What's that?
And plus the focus, right?
Right.
So
So
that's 4.
I hadn't actually set the difficulty rating, but I would have set it at probably something like 2. So you've got like 2 over it if you had 4
Right.
successes. So we're going to add 2 more, which is 6, and I'm going to say that you managed to find that shelter for yourself. And not just that, you actually managed to find like a little crusty area of rock that is jutting out of a few dunes and runs along the edges and
Figured with
leading.
a 1, he would have found a doomsday prepper like storage place. of
Like
food
with
and
everything it
everything.
needs. And it's got like, yes, right. It's got like
It's a
10
safe
course,
house.
10 course meals, all
It's a desert
vacuum
safe house.
sealed in it, and they're like Stouffer's hot meals, and then they're like,
It's a desert safe house.
right. Well, what's nice though, I think, is one thing to remember is that the ones don't necessarily translate into like some, because they already pay off as double successes, you know what I mean? So there's no point
Right.
in making it super special, but I'm giving him the super special edge, that crusty bit of rock that takes you, and it serves both as a shelter for you in case things get bad, but it also serves as a nice way to sneak up on these two that are being led through the desert. And now that it's been pointed out to you, you can kind of see as they come into view one more time. And perhaps Fader, this time you don't even have to roll, but you do see that Tyros was not hallucinating or seeing a vision. This is real. And then they kind of disappear one more time. And
I can still hear you guys. I just got to step off camera.
no problem. So the four of you are watching as these two are being moved forward. And as Fremen, again, I'm not going to make you roll for this. You recognize the movements of two people that are being held at probably Mala pistol point, gun point, essentially. Who they are, that's something a little bit different. But you see those two as they're moved along the edge of the sand. And now you're closer to them, and you probably have an opportunity to sneak up and attack should you wish.
Yeah, I think let's try that.
So let me understand. We see the two captives, and then we see two people that are
You see
holding them captive. Who do we see?
two captives, and then these two kind of shadowy images moving through the desert storm. And the reason why you see these two, and actually now it looks like it might be three, but then it goes back to being two. The reason why you see these forms behind them is more because the desert sands are moving along the outline of some sort of a form, and not so much because there's anyone there. And then they disappear again.
You have to remind me, Matt, what is the technology, the suit? It was made on my home world, the one that disguises that the assassins use.
Oh, that I would not know. You can tell me. Why don't you tell
Okay.
me tonight? I can't remember, but go ahead. Ix did
Yeah,
make
Good.
is known for its
Go
technology.
ahead. You guys talk, and I'm going to find it here.
Go right ahead. So what's the plan here? You're now, I'm going to say like 25 yards out.
Well, I'm primarily a melee fighter, so my vote would be to sneak up on him and attack, sort of in the traditional Freeman way.
Mm-hmm.
Tyros, let me set up a diversion for you. Once you head on over there, and I'm going to fire a shot into the desert to distract them, and then you sneak up on them and jump them from behind.
All right, maybe Freighter and I can do that. Can sneak up and you can set up a distraction.
Sure.
Briss, any information on the
I
suit?
normally spar with my tongue, but hold on a second. For the suit.
So in other words, you're no good in a fight. Is that what you're saying? Are you part?
The French way.
Ooh, don't say that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have French members of the audience out there. I teach at a bilingual French school. I love France. Vive la France, as a matter of fact. I teach at a French school. I very much love it. And the views expressed by my players are not necessarily the views of myself. Steve,
I'm French. I'm okay with it.
Steve, you're fired.
I was making reference
Canadian.
to the French tongue. He said he spars with his tongue.
Yeah.
And I was thinking French kiss. Now that you chose to make it a stereotype about the fighting prowess of the mighty French army, World War I, World War II.
Sorry.
That's on you.
It's
not anything I
it's
said.
only my
And
Napoleon complex. Sorry.
real quick, Matt. I heard everything that was going on, so
Yeah.
I'm going to back Tyros up. I'm going to flank
Yeah.
the opposite side
Okay.
and come in on those guys. The blades drawn, ready to handle some slavers.
Okay, got it. And so then, Riss, can we count on you to be like just like huddled and hiding somewhere,
Close
looking on your
enough.
data pad?
Close enough that I can engage if necessary, though.
Okay. All right, got it.
You
So
can get your surrender flag ready if needed.
the
I
views
can
expressed
talk
on this
people out of
program do not
pretty much
represent
anything.
my own views.
So Matt,
Mhm.
I don't know how you want to do this, but I do have a talent which I think is very applicable here.
Yes, give it a try.
It's a battle collaboration, and what it says is when I select this talent, I choose a single skill with a
Mm-hmm.
rating of 6 or more,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever an ally attempts a test using that skill, and I can communicate with them, I can spend 2 points of momentum to allow them to use my score for the skill and one of my focuses if I have it. So, um,
Absolutely. Let's try this out then. So I would assume that you're going to be in close contact because you were the one that said, okay, let me distract them by making some sort of
correct,
sign. So you're going to be in close contact with both Fader and Tyros. And then maybe
correct.
Riss is going to be kind of back a little bit, but ready to support. So I'm going to say that it'll be applicable to Fader and Tyros. How do you need to spend momentum points for that or make a roll or anything like that? Don't worry too much if you don't.
I think we lost Steve.
Oh,
He's frozen.
is Steve
Yeah.
frozen? Uh-oh.
Yeah, he said he
Oh,
had
there
used
he
2
is.
momentum points.
There he
There he
is.
is.
Okay,
I
so
was frozen there for a moment.
no
Sorry.
problem. No problem. So I guess you'll spend 2 momentum points for that. So the pool was at 6
6.
because we
Yep.
went up, but we're down to 4 now.
Yep.
And so we're down to 4, and so you can swap out a skill for them if they want to use it, if your skill, I assume, is higher than them.
Right.
So here's the way that conflict works, and it's kind of interesting. So basically, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say zones and action order. So basically, the game master picks the first character to act. So there is no like rolling of initiative or anything like that. And usually the what Modiphus does is they find in for the player characters first. And then I could choose the non-player characters perhaps if they're being ambushed, but I think clearly in this case, our player characters are the ones that are sneaking up on these non-player characters. So that means that I will give them the first chance. So once the PC acts, then initiative will actually pass to the other side. So rather than having all of the players like on one side go and then all of the players on the other, the initiative just simply goes back and forth. Now, what they can do, though, is the team can spend, or I should say the party can spend momentum points in order to keep the initiative. So let's say that Steve goes first and he does really well, and then the team wants to keep the initiative. Then in that case, like Jarod can say, okay, I'm going to spend 2 points and I'm going to carry on with that instead of allowing the other side to go. It costs 2 momentum points or 2 threat points in order to do this. And then once all of this happens, the initiative just goes back and forth as I kind of explained before, depending on how the players want to play out.
Very quick question.
Sure.
How do we earn threat points?
Oh, wow, I'm so glad. You can earn them basically through when you run out of momentum points and you don't have any momentum points, but you want to use something in the same way that you would use momentum points. Essentially, you give me threat points or you allow me to gain threat points. And so you can spend, like, let's say you have 0 momentum left, but you want to create a trait, and a trait costs 2 points of either momentum or 2 points of threat. If you don't have the momentum, you can say, okay, Matt, you have 2 more threat points. And I can use threat points to adjust the scene, to create characters, to make the difficulty higher if I want to be. So essentially, by doing this, what you're doing is you're creating like this sort of sense of tension. And it pays off later on in the scene, or it could pay off immediately. Does that make sense, Fader?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So after all of that explanation, why don't you go ahead, Diverian, and you want to distract them by firing off a weapon? Is this correct?
I want to fire off my Mala pistol. Just maybe aim it at almost a piece of solid rock to try to make the most noise.
Yep.
In the opposite direction of where my ambush guys are going to be coming from.
Okay, so I'm going to make this a difficulty of 1 because this is pretty easy. You're not being hunted or in any position to be in trouble at this point. So go ahead and make your roll. So I'm going to say that it is battle plus whatever drive statement you want to use.
So let's do battle plus duty.
Got it.
And the statement is, I must watch out for those who watch my back. So
okay, cool. So
and that's a 6.
It's 6 when you add the 2 together.
Oh, well, 6 for battle, 6 for duty, so 12 altogether.
12. Okay, nice. So under a 12.
And I roll how many dice?
You roll 2d20.
Unless you buy more.
You can buy more if you want to spend momentum.
Shouldn't have to on this one.
Yeah, I think a 12 is a pretty.
All right, so I'll roll 2d20.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I rolled a 16, which stinks.
Yep.
But I rolled a 1.
And a 1, so that's 2 successes. So you beat the difficulty by 1. So that adds 1 momentum to your pool. So you're back up to 5 with that. And indeed, you fire off your shot, and you hit rock that is in the opposite direction of where your compatriots are sneaking. And immediately, the 2 that have their hands up stop. And when this happens, the rest of you can see very clearly that whatever is behind them, it looks like it's 2 or 3 people, their forms being shaped by the desert sands are stopped as well. And then you distinctly see what may or may not be one of them turning and looking off in the direction that the shot came from. Now, the way that this works is if you want to buy some, or if you want to spend some momentum, someone from your side can keep going, or I'm going to turn it over to your enemies, or I'll just call them your adversaries or opponents. Would you like to continue with the momentum?
You want to go, Fader? Get your jump on them?
Yeah, I might as well.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to use, of course, battle.
Well, let me just explain those. So the first thing you're going to do is, in order to keep things going, you're going to have to spend those momentum points. Okay.
We're down to 3.
So you're down. Okay, got it. So go ahead and down to 3.
Down to 3.
Got it.
All right. So using battle, and my focus, I'll just basically my focus statement would be like the desert sands, I strike.
Mm-hmm.
And
that works. That really works, especially with the sandstorm.
Right. And then I guess duty, because these are looking like slavers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an 8 and a 7.
8 and a 7.
Total, so that's 15.
Yep.
And because it's a focus, that gives me 1.
Yep.
One an additional success already. So basically, what I'm going to do is fade out of the desert like a Fremen does, and just take the one that's looking off, that was distracted, that's looking off into the direction of the distraction.
Okay, hold on for 1 second. So the way that battle works, so you're going to just take them out.
Yes.
Okay. So the way that battles work or conflicts work, there are two types of conflict. There's just a simple conflict where you have to roll against the skill level of that particular target. So for example, if this target's skill level for battle is 3, what Dean needs to do is just simply succeed on his skill roll, and a minor NPC character will just simply be taken out. For larger characters, like characters that have a bigger role in the game, there needs to be an extended contest that goes on. But because this is the first time we're playing, and because this is not like a major character, Dean, all you have to do is make one success, or I should say,
And
succeed once in order to.
and
Go ahead.
I'm going to use my talent, which is decisive action.
Okay.
And it says after successfully removing an enemy asset with battle, remove a second asset for 2 threat. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
going to attempt to do that.
Yeah. So go ahead and make your rolls.
Oh, beautiful. I got a 3 and a 7. So that's 2 successes plus the 1 for a focus. So that's 3 successes.
3 successes. And I'm going to say that that is 1 over what it was going to take to succeed. So your momentum is now up to 4 with that. You are able to take out that first form or that first shape, and you come out of the sand, and in a way you are more invisible than this figure, which you realize as you grab him and pull him, or it, I should say, back, is wearing some sort of a ghost camouflage suit, which essentially makes him invisible. And you tell me, what's your fatality look like?
Well, literally, he comes out and you see you just see him fade out of the sand, strike like this, double strike right across where the throat area would be. And because of the decisive action, it says I can take out a second enemy, and they'll just spin and both Chris knives into the chest of the other one. And then if you allow it, then it's the fade back into the sand.
Boom.
Fade away.
And they both fall backward to the ground. And what you realize as you spin and fade back out into the sand is that there is indeed a third figure somewhere there in the sand.
How many momentum points did your talent cost?
It cost 2.
Okay.
But we got back another one, so we're back up to 4.
Why do I feel like Jarod is considering a new mechanic for fun? That he's like, ooh.
No, I'm just keeping track on the pool here. So we're actually at 3.
No, we're at 4 because I gave us 1 back.
He gave us 1 back
but
in
you
that
took
last
2.
roll.
So we had 4.
Oh.
We had 2 and then back up to 1.
I thought we had 5.
No, we had 4. We had 4.
No, we had 4.
Yeah.
Matt changed it and said it was 1 success over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was 1
So
success.
put it at 4.
Right.
Now we're at 3.
Okay. Are you guys keeping the momentum now?
Technically, we can only do it once.
Oh, really? Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is just for fun.
Okay.
I don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Far be
if
it.
you want to let
Far
us,
be it.
let us do it, I'll go ahead and spend it and go.
Go
But
ahead.
otherwise,
Go ahead. Let's have
okay.
fun. It's Friday night. We're playing Dune.
All right.
Denis
So
Villeneuve's Dune comes out next week. Let's just do it in honor
All right.
of seeing Frank Herbert's work on the silver screen.
Perfect.
Yeah, so glad it's going to be on HBO. So
Yeah, exactly.
We're not even
Yep.
going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about this. I understand there's a pandemic raging, but
understood.
All right, so I'm going to use battle with a focus of short blades.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to use justice because my statement is Fremen will receive what they are owed.
Nice.
Fremen.
What's your battle, Jarod?
My battle is a 7.
Okay.
And my justice is a 6.
so
All right,
that
so those
is
are
a
better than mine, so
13.
you don't need to use my collaboration.
Okay.
You sound like Charlie Brown.
Sorry, Steve.
I got a rock. It's all right. It's a thought that counts, Steve. Okay. So go ahead. I will concur that those do line up. If you would like, go ahead and make your roll.
All right. First one is a 14.
14.
But
Oops.
because we were lucky enough to be in a roll low game, I rolled a 1.
Oh, which is 2 successes. So 2 successes are pretty darn good, usually.
Oh no.
But not for this character, which you do. Well, you tell me what exactly you're trying to do. Tell me how this looks. I don't want to tell you. What are you attempting?
I am not quite as skilled or as cool as Fader, but I am pretty adept. So definitely use the sand to my advantage. Like he did come out with just a single strike.
Right, and I think that's probably what happened right there. Is this opponent had thought at first that he was facing 2 strikes, and because of that, he brings one hand around, which manages to block 1. Or I should say, he takes 1 in his hand, but then the other one he manages to use to block. So he doesn't take quite as much damage as he might otherwise have taken. And you do knock him down the dune, but he scrambles as if maybe he's trained in some way that you're unaware of. And now with that, I am not going to allow another intervention, even though I allowed a second one. And with that, he's going to make a strike. And immediately you see several long blades come out. These are not crysknives, but they are just simply, well, you're not even sure exactly what you're looking at. Because for a moment, whatever it is that is camouflaging him flickers. And this is not like a shield. And because using a shield in this environment, by the way, would be foolish because the vibrations of the shield and the frequencies attract the worm. But this is some other sort of technology that looks like it's emanating from his back and maybe also from his kneecaps. He draws 2 blades that come out, and he comes toward you, Tyros, because you, of course, are the one. Now, this is an opposed roll, so what we're going to do is I'm going to set a difficulty rating for this when he attacks you.
Isn't it difficulty for him my roll?
Yes. Oh, that's right. You need to go ahead. Yes. So go ahead and make the difficulty roll. I'm sorry about that. Or set
is
the
it
rating.
just 1 dice or 2?
I think that it's actually 2. It's the 2 that you would think that.
And whatever the best one is my. Oh no, I'm just trying to get 2 successes.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It's you're just setting the number of successes. You're not setting like.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I'll even take the same combination of battle and justice for a 13.
Okay.
And I rolled a 4 and a 12. But because of my short blade focus, that makes it 3 successes.
So he needs 3 successes in order to. Okay, got it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of threat here. Just for fun. So the game master can spend threat in order to add a die to the roll. So ordinarily I would be rolling 2 dice, but because I'm a jerk, I'm going to add a 3rd die to the roll. I'm going to spend a few of my threat points, which I had at 8, but now it's going to go down. The first die is, I believe it's 1 point, so it's going to go down to 7. Okay, so essentially, I'm adding battle, and I think I'm going to add, 10, all right. 19, 19, and 20.
There we go. Rolo,
so
baby.
The non-player character gets a complication, which I'm just going to simply call a slip-up, some footwork that goes awry, and he falls into your blade.
Nice.
And I'm simply going to say with this, do you choose to take him out with that, or do you choose to show pity and allow him to? I'll give you the choice. Finish him off,
Uh,
or
I'm gonna show pity. We need a little more information
are
out
you
of this.
carrying a Chris blade?
I am, yes.
You know that it needs to draw blood.
It has drawn blood.
Oh,
I
it has.
hit
That's
him
right.
once.
That's right. You did. Okay. I was
Plus, I
going to
did.
say,
Yeah, I hit him
otherwise
once.
you're going to have to stab like
Right.
Riss or somebody.
Right.
No, it just stab him in his thigh.
I know,
That way-
right?
right.
Just for
That's
fun,
right.
right? Sorry,
That's right.
sorry. Technicality.
That way he
Take a
knows
foot off.
That way
Right.
he understands that we mean business.
Right,
That's right.
right. So he does slip and fall, and you manage, we'll say, to subdue him. And the two with their arms up are just still kind of standing this way, and they are completely wrapped from head to toe. And the moment that this figure falls into the sand, I'm going to just say that the combat is, or the conflict is, as they call it in Dune, is now over. You manage to subdue one of them, the other one is dead, or the other two are dead. And then these two are waiting with their hands up, and you realize that they're bound behind them. And they stop for a moment and they turn, and they are just covered head to toe, wrapped, not like Fremen at all, but like, well, like an off-worlder's idea of what it would take to survive the harsh sands of Dune. And now at this point, the sandstorm is getting worse. It's probably 15 minutes or so from hitting you pretty hard. So what would you gentlemen like to do?
Let's get the three of them up to the shelter that was found.
Everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Sure.
So you slip off to the shelter and get out of harm's way. And you still haven't seen the faces or the forms or the figures of those two that were bound, but I assume you cut their binds
Yep. And then we bind the other guy.
and bind the other one, who
Yeah.
you stick off in a corner somewhere. Go ahead then. How are you interacting with them?
Do we recognize them?
They haven't taken their swaddled clothing off yet.
Well, we reveal yourselves.
They are two rather scruffy looking individuals. Off-worlders, they appear to you to be. They have white eyes, not the blue within blue that you had been expecting of Fremen. Just so people know, we have a private chat going and someone made a scruffy looking, who's scruffy looking comment. We're referring to all the science fiction that ripped off Dune. You know why, folks? Because Dune was the first and probably the greatest science fiction novel of all time. And so there's so many references to it that aren't even references to Dune anymore. They become references to other things. But anyway, I digress.
I'd give it to Asimov, but Herbert's.
Yeah, that's why I kind of nodded like this. I mean, I'll give Dune his credit, but Foundation trilogy, Heinlein. I mean, Stranger in a Strange Land. I mean, there's a lot of this.
You're right.
H.G. Wells had him by a century, guys. Let's
My
not
goodness.
get carried away.
Wait,
here.
I'm starting to wonder, why did I invite you guys to this game tonight? Why did I? I'm sorry, we're having a little connection problem. I think some of you aren't coming in very clear.
Herbert's the best.
Nobody's disputing Herbert's brilliance, but we won't. There's others.
You're just digging a hole in the sands.
I wanna go
Yeah.
and see if I can recognize who the assailant was.
Yeah.
I like this. Okay. The assailant, now that the armor that they were wearing is deactivated at this point.
Oh no, it's been removed.
Okay, or removed. All right, I'm so sorry. I stand corrected, Fader. Once it's been removed, first of all, it seems like no technology you have seen before. There's something to it that's almost, you can't tell if it's some sort of artificial or organic material. It's green in color, green almost as if it were some sort of vegetation, as a matter of fact.
Weird.
And there's a bit of a soft feeling to it as you remove it. And this non-player character, this figure, this adversary, does not look happy about it as you remove it. And they don't actually look as scruffy as the two individuals who you've just presumably saved. He actually looks like fit. He's tanned as if he'd been on the desert. There's no water fat on him, as the Fremen say. And while he doesn't move quite as tight and as with as much agility as you as Fremen move, chances are you probably respect the way that he moves. He just hasn't been to probably Dune,
He
or
hasn't
hasn't
trained.
grown up on Dune. Um, there's something tight and trained about him. You want to roll to see if you recognize him?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Whoever wants to do that can go ahead. I would say that the skill that it would be understand, and then you can go ahead and pick your drive.
I'll use my. I'll do it. You want to do it? I got a 5 for understanding, and I figured I would use justice, which I had a 6 in, so it'd be an 11.
Can I suggest something?
Sure.
Aid.
I was going to say, I don't want to have like everybody just sort of go around the table and have everybody decide who, and just have everybody take a shot at it. Who do you think is most likely? I'll give 2 chances. Who do you think is most likely to know who this is? Do you guys want to decide?
I guess
Well,
Tiberian and Reese, right?
It would probably be probably be Reese, I believe, because he's an off-worlder.
I think Diverian would be the most interested in knowing, but I
Right.
think Reese would be had the best chance of actually knowing.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about this? I'm going to set the difficulty rating. Reese, would you like to go then?
I absolutely would. I'm going to approach him first with a small amount of water and tip that into his mouth so he can rinse out his throat as part of the communication process.
You tip the water into his mouth and he doesn't even take it. He just continues to stare forward with a cold, hard stare.
I understand you're injured, friend, but I'd like to pursue the truth. You look familiar. Do I roll now?
Yep. You can go ahead.
All right.
And I'm going to set the difficulty
You said it's
at...
understand?
Yeah, so it's understand, and then you go ahead and pick a drive.
Truth.
Yep.
Always seeking the truth.
What's your
Give a
understand?
focus.
Understand is 4, truth is 7.
Give a focus. And understand.
I don't. I have diplomacy and persuasion. I don't
I'm
have
gonna-
a focus on understand.
I'm going to set the difficulty for you at 2.
Okay.
You want to use momentum dice to get a third die?
I
We got
already rolled. I got a 16 and I got a 2.
Oh, okay.
A 16 and a 2. So that
Yeah.
would be 1 success.
1 success.
You can after, so just so that everybody knows, and let me throw this up here on the board. You can actually spend momentum in order to do a reroll, I believe it is. Wait a minute, I might be wrong about this.
Is that
Oh,
determination?
it's determination. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Unless you can only
Everyone
use...
starts with 1 point of determination.
Yes, but it has to be in something that has, it has to be in a skill that has a focus, I believe, or
Okay.
in order to use it. So in this case, you cannot re-roll that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm going to say that he does look familiar, but boy, you've never seen this armor before.
Mm-hmm.
That is something weird.
That's not from my home world, I say, pointing at the armor.
It is not Ixian technology, that is for sure. And he simply stares at you. While the 2 others that you have just saved are are just watching the water dribble out of his mouth, and they look awfully thirsty, as if they kind of look in your direction. Kind of, can we get a little water? A little water, please? And they stumble forward. I mean, unless you guys are stopping them. They're like, you guys just helped us, right? Thank you. Thank you.
I'll give him a little
Identify
water.
yourselves. Who are you?
So one of them identifies themselves. One of them that looks a little bit more respectable than the other. One of them identifies himself as Realm, Realm. And the other, less respectable and maybe younger looking one, identifies themselves as Yars. And Yars starts kind of bumbling through an explanation like he didn't really mean it. He wasn't really trying to sell anyone out. He's really sorry about this. Like he didn't mean anything. Like the spice was just something it was part of like his retirement package. I'm young. I wanted to get started when, in my early years, a lot of guys like around your ages, they don't invest. And as he's saying all these things, Realm is just kind of like shaking his head. And when he's done, he explains that the two of them were actually part of the smuggling group taking spice off planet. We hate the Harkonnens. And they look around at the four of you as if they're sort of noting the fact that you're Fremen, and they know all the stories about the ways that the Fremen have been treated. We hate the Harkonnens. We only meant to take the spice and use it for ourselves to free. We grew up on Gedi Prime, and Gedi Prime, you would know, is the home of the Harkonnens. We left them to change things, but our families, they explain to you, their families are actually have either died or been conscripted, died in the gladiatorial battles on Gedi Prime, or been conscripted into the Harkonnens military, or perhaps just service in factories around the planet. And Gedi Prime, you would probably basically know that being the home of the Harkonnens, the stories that you would hear is that it's this horrible place, like with volcanic kind of a volcanic surface, which is just absolutely an atrocious place to live. And so what they're basically trying to do, and the impression you get, is that they're appealing to what they presume is your hatred of the Harkonnen. Realm comes across as being very sincere. Yars comes across as being just a bozo.
And who's this guy? I'll ask them about their captive or their captor.
They look over at him, and then they spit. Actually, I'll say that Yars spits on him, and Realm just like shakes his head as if he's embarrassing the two of them. And he looks at him and he says, This one right here, he's the one that he sold us out. He's the one, he's not even one of us. He's just some puppet that works for someone else, some other bigwig, aren't you? And he leans in. And basically, Yars explains that he is a representative of whoever it is that is buying the spice from the smugglers. And this representative was brought here to Arrakis to investigate the fact that spice was disappearing. Because...
So he's Harkonnen?
What's that?
So he's Harkonnen?
No, he's not Harkonnen. He's someone else. I would know a Harkonnen by their smell. And again, Realm is just shaking his head. So essentially what Realm and Yars are explaining to you, and they, over the next few minutes, they explain to you that they were part of a smuggling operation. And they came here hoping to earn their keep and make a little bit of money in order to go back to Gedi Prime and free their families, buy their freedom for them. And the smuggling operation was selling the spice to this gentleman, whoever he may be, in his green, oddly organic armor that you've taken off of him. And when the Spice had been coming up a little bit short, they sent some representatives here to figure out exactly what was going on. And it was determined that people such as Realm, Yars, and the third character, or I'm sorry, that was from before. Realm and Yars were skimming off the top, and so they brought them out into the desert to execute them. And you just so happened to bumble into their execution and save them, and now they're eternally grateful. So if you could just free us, we will be on our way, and you can take us water. And Realm is just kind of nodding as Yars is saying these things.
And I look at Realm or Yars and I say, not so quick.
He's like, really?
Yes, I turn back to the steely-eyed guy. Is that what it is, friend? You're a common criminal, just here to exact revenge upon people skimming off the top?
And
Doesn't seem like the truth to me.
The first and only words you hear from him, I'm not a common criminal, I am an exceptional criminal.
And these men dared take money from you. Take Spice.
He says nothing else, but he looks like he's growling at you and about to bark.
So I turn back to the two. I said, so you come to Arrakis with your hated enemies, the Fremen. I mean, your hated enemies, the Harkonnen. You decide to steal from them. And then...
We are from Gedi Prime, but we are not Harkonnen. We hate the Harkonnens. We are simple smugglers.
So you come to my planet to steal?
Steal from the Harkonnen. Because it's the only way that we have to free. Would you not wish to free your own families if they were under the yoke of the Harkonnens? We hope not just to free our families, but to go back to Gedi Prime and free it for all.
Can I use my truth and understanding?
Absolutely.
To try and basically
yes,
read his character to see if
sure.
I'm being duped.
Are you talking to now? Which one do you want to talk to here?
Whoever's been doing all the talking. Yars, I think it was.
Yars is doing a lot of the talking. Realm will talk to you, but he just kind of like he's waiting for Yars to sort of exhaust himself so he can get some like reasonable words in.
Then I'll look at Realm.
Realm, okay,
and
yeah.
I'll say, and that's who I'm speaking to. So I'm going to.
Yep.
Let's see.
What's your understand? So hold on a second. I'm so sorry. What is your understand and your truth?
Both are 5, so I got to roll a 10.
So you got a 10, and I'm going to set the difficulty for this. This is kind of weird for me because I have to tell you what the difficulty is. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'll tell you what I roll in, and if I got it, I got it. If I
okay,
don't,
this kind of makes some sense. Yeah, go ahead.
I rolled a 1 and an 8.
So 2 successes, actually 3 successes. So with that roll, what do you want to know? Because you weren't asking him a question, you just were reading him.
Yeah, I'm trying to perceive their character. Do I feel I can trust these people? Does my gut instinct tell me they're being honest? Do they seem credible? Is what I want to do. I want to go with my gut on this because I have nothing else to go on. I don't know these people.
Do you get the feeling that you can't judge properly Yars because he's all over the place? He's like it's like if you ever met someone that you feel like is not really very smart, so he's kind of like in this weird scale where you can't tell, like, is he telling the truth sometimes or not? But Realm seems sincere. When he like pauses, he seems sincerely annoyed with Yars. When he corrects Realm on something, he seems sincerely annoyed with him. When he adds a bit of information or when you talk to him, he seems sincere. Meanwhile, the figure in green,
Hans Gruber,
just I'm glad you got that, Larry. Just
Took
the
me a
the
while.
exceptional
I
the
got it
ex,
immediately.
the exceptional criminal um just stares ahead in silence.
All right.
We
Wait,
don't much care for any of you, but we lost two of our tribesmen recently. Do you know what
as
got to
soon as
them?
you say that, Yars lights up. The two Fremen captives. And then Realm looks, just nods. The two captive, you came for the captives. They're not too far away, Yars says. They're right over, they're 2 dunes over. They're so close. They use the same technology as this fella right here, but they don't just disguise themselves, they disguise their encampment. They're taking the spice right now. Everything that they have, and the cold-hearted smuggler, criminal, is just glaring like icicles into the sky. But he knows that, he's bound. He knows he can't do anything, and he's too focused to attempt something silly like lashing out at him or whatever.
I turn to Fader with my very best look, and I say, "I told you so." It's the smugglers.
From Getty Prime, which is the Harkonnen homeland.
Well, we're actually composed of many different cultures. We're a multicultural organization. We've been in
I
business
turn
for
and I look at him.
approximately.
I basically look at him with the glare of, keep talking and you might be leaking.
You don't even have to roll. Yars just sits back and Realm, he's probably the only person you can really, of the two, he's the only one that you can really talk to, like, and feel like confident.
Let me
And
tell you
then
a
I
story
turn,
of a man named Shh.
then I turn back to Devarian and I say, everything will be revealed in time, but I put no faith in your love of these Harkonnen, your trust. Even as Reese has said, and at times we don't agree, but the Harkonnen, there's nothing good about them.
I never professed any love. I just think we got to have open eyes. And right now, we got to go get our two guys. We got to go get those two Fremen away from these smugglers.
He
Agreed.
looks at Fader. I'm sorry, Yars looks at Fader as if he wants to add a point, and he's got kind of a serious look on his face. Are you going to give him like an intimidating look back, or are you going to let him
I look,
talk?
I turn to him and say, you have something to add?
We can we can help you get in there if you want to let us go. I mean, we worked in there for and he looks at him. We worked in there for at least 9 months, something like that. We know their tech. I mean, not perfectly, but we could help you if you want to get in there. And
So I point at the armor.
this is I don't quite understand it, but it's whatever this tech is that they're using. I've never really seen it before, but these guys come and go. These guys are big criminals, but maybe not big enough to stop 4 Fremen. And he kind of twists the knife in the side of the.
So
I want to.
how many criminals are there at this location?
They say that there could be as many as far as smugglers goes. There's about 20 to 25 on a crew. But then as far as these guys go, and Yars points at them, we know there are 2 bigwigs. He's not one of them. But there are some small wigs, and at least 5 or 6 of them. And you just took out, well, if I do my calculations right, it leaves 5 or 6 of them.
So 5 or 6 more, or 5 or 6 including these 3?
5 or 6 more.
And are the big wigs there, as you put it? Are the big wigs there, as you put it?
Okay. Okay, kids, raise your hand and the teacher will call on you. Why don't, Dean, I'm sorry, Fader, why don't you go first?
Are the big wigs there, as you put it?
Yeah, but the truth is, and now this is actually, this is not Yars talking, but Realm. They're there, but we got to be honest, we're not even sure who or what they are. We haven't seen them. They brought them, and they described this process where, and they described the encampment. They said that there was a horseshoe-shaped dropship that lands in the center, and then a still tent city and mini factory, a processing plant for bringing the spice up out of the ground, is set up. And it's only there for it'll only be there for like a day or two, and then it moves off, or actually even that, sometimes it's like half a day, because it always depends on the worm and how much they can get out and how much they find and how quickly the worm can get to them. If it gets to them. And there's no telling if it's going to leave at any moment. You never know. And so around that, there are many different vehicles, harvesters and ornithopters and other standard equipment that you would find for a spice harvesting operation.
How far from the siege are we?
I was going to say about half a day's journey. You're kind of equidistant between the siege and Arrakis. So Reese. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I look at Tyros and Reese, and I go, I'm not overly impressed with their capability for. And I look at the exceptional criminal, and I look him up and down and go, combat.
The criminal is just cold, glaring.
Yeah, he's me cold and glaring, but I'm insulting him anyway. And then I go, but we are only 3 warriors and an elder. I'm not sure how much their technology could offset the situation. But again,
passively, I'm gonna tap into my persuasion and just essentially just say, well, they're outsiders. They're stealing spice. There's really only one outcome for all 3 of them anyway.
This is true.
The Yars doesn't look. Realm puts his head down. Yars doesn't look happy with that, but he doesn't say anything because he's thinking about Fader's threat about like behaving himself. And then the cold, glaring criminal just does one of these.
At least
as if they'd expected as much.
Hand me your blade.
Oof.
Now, I look at Reese before I draw the blade. It's still within the sheath.
Mm-hmm.
And you know
well,
the rules.
Actually,
no, but
I do know the rule.
Yeah, I look at it, I go, you know the rules.
I do. My pursuit of truth and justice has brought me to this point. And I do. I grab the blade and I unsheath it.
Okay, so
the guy with the steely gaze.
You're gonna. Okay, so with that, here's what we're gonna do. The skill for this, I'm gonna give you a choice. Communicate, discipline, or maybe understand. Because I see it.
Communicate with my persuasion focus.
Okay, so we'll go with that. And what is your rank in that? I know rank is not the word, but what's the number? 6. Okay. And then how about your drive? What are you going to choose?
My drive is for the truth. I mean,
Truth. Got
honestly,
it.
it's all the truth is all things.
And so what's your rank in that again?
7.
7. Okay, so your target is going to be a 13 for this.
But since I have a focus, anything, is it under a 6 or 6 and under?
6 and under.
Is crit. 6 and under is crit. Okay.
Yep. I know what
All
your
right.
target number is, and I'm using the same target number that I used earlier on. I'm not going to
Okay.
tell you, but I know what
So
it is.
do you want to, before you roll, do you want to buy any D20s?
That's what I was going to ask. How many we got?
We've got 1. So if you
We've only
spend
got one
more,
left.
If you're
we got
critting
1 in
on
the pool.
8s, you should have no problem here.
Well,
Hang on,
I'm
6s.
critting on a 6.
Oh, 6s, okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Willie, we're down to 1 momentum?
Yep.
What about the extra one that I gave us? I thought we were at 4. I missed something.
We were at
Yeah,
3 at one
we used
point.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, no big.
I'm glad you
All right,
guys are
I'll
keeping
just-
track.
I'm not going to steal the last momentum. I'll go ahead and just roll.
Well,
All
don't.
right, here goes.
Okay.
All right, I did get a 2, which is a crit. That's 2 and a 16.
And a 16. So a 2 and a 4.
Yeah. 2
Eileen,
successes.
tell me how you use the blade.
I stand up and I walk over toward him. I go ahead and put my arm on his shoulder, and I'm holding the blade right near where it would penetrate his heart.
So you grab him, you're holding on to him, and he doesn't even flinch. He just bends as you grab him. And he's just staring forward. And the smile is gone, but there's no reaction. There's something hard and cold about this exceptional criminal.
Even 2 successes were not enough. I'm sorry, friend. I'm going to go ahead and the blade has to have blood. So maybe I'm going to miss anything vital.
Maybe.
Yeah, I will. I'll miss something vital.
But, so how are you doing this? Are you stabbing him or just cutting him?
No, he's going to drive
Stabbing.
the blade right into him.
You're going to
Right
stab
into
him?
his shoulder.
How long have you been a Fremen?
20-something years.
And what's your background in, say, knowledge of where organs are and where it's okay to stab and where it's not okay when penetrating someone's chest cavity?
Probably 0.
Okay, I'm gonna set a.
Well,
I'm gonna
he's
set
probably
a.
trained-
I've got to draw blood.
Yeah.
He's probably trained. He's probably trained in battle, and he's probably seen. And this is just me trying to throw out there.
Yeah.
If he's been among us for 20 years, he's seen enough Fremen battle, and he's probably seen enough Fremen,
True.
do
Yes.
things like that. So I would say he would have a good chance
Yes.
of stabbing this guy, making him think he's getting stabbed in the
Yeah.
heart, and maybe missing what's
Yeah.
necessary to get to. Basically for the intimidation purposes. So when
Yes.
he pulls the blade out, he may not die in the beginning.
Then
but-
I'm just gonna call this part of that whole roll that you just made, and I'm gonna say you do stab him. And there's a little moment where it looks like he might break, but he knows you're just fooling. You're not as cold as he is. And then you
No,
let
I'm
go
not.
of him,
Mhm.
and he
I maybe got just the tip in.
and now
Go ahead
he's
and-
and now he is bleeding,
Mhm.
but he's just staring forward.
When he does that, I walk over and go, and I look him dead in his cold, dark eyes, and I say, perhaps you don't believe Reese, but perhaps you'll believe me.
He shrugs, as if to say, "You're welcome to try."
Okay. Because I do know battle. I'm going to slash his anterior artery on the inner thigh.
Oof, Jesus.
Man.
Things just got
And-
dark, ladies and gentlemen.
And I look at him and I say,
Well, it is Dune.
And I look at him and say, you have perhaps 30 minutes before your water will replenish the desert.
So I am going to say he reads it in you. And I'm going to take the fact that you just told me, the fact that you do that, right? And I'm going to say he reads it a moment before you actually do it. And he shies away. And he smiles. And when he smiles, he looks you in the eye, and it's the smile of someone that is granting you respect, because he knows you were just about to allow him to, his essence to drain from him. And he nods. What is it that you wish to know? I can tell you some things.
Let's
From
start
one
with who
warrior to another.
Let's start with who are you?
We have no name. We are Strictians. And we believe that we have found the new emperor of all mankind. He looks around at each one of you. You Fremen think you know the spice. And maybe you do. But the spice is only half of all knowledge of the known universe. The other half are the machines, the thinking machines that you all fear so much. And now he's talking about the Butlerian Jihad from tens of thousands of years before, when all thinking machines, robots and whatnot, were basically outlawed because robots rose up and they tried to eliminate and wipe out mankind. And so since then, no thinking machines have been allowed. And he tells you about a cult that essentially is harvesting the spice and also using it in conjunction with thinking machines. And he smiles when he mentions this, because he essentially thinks that mankind, most of mankind that rejects thinking machines, is weak because they don't use the tools that they were given. They only use half of what they have. Would you fight a battle with one arm tied behind your back, Fremen?
And I look at him and say, Fremen fight however they must.
And that's about all he's probably going to tell you at this point.
Um,
The Ixians have been still producing intelligent machines in secret. It's been limited. I'm not talking to you.
I was going to say, are you saying this out loud in front of everyone? Because I think at that point everyone would turn to you and stab you to death, knowing that you and your people are producing. Now, I know you would. I'm just kind of, I'm kidding.
But no, I actually literally would turn to Reese, and I look at the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Decisions.
But I have no idea how the spice can affect thinking machines, though. They would have to have some sort of biology, not just circuitry, in order for the spice to really affect them. At least from what we know of the spice, that's true.
This is loosened.
And I point to the armor. When you said it, I point to the armor.
And when you make that sort of connection, the cold, exceptional criminal just smiles And when you pick up the
He-
armor,
he-
there's that distinct cinnamon smell of the spice. But it could be your imagination because everything on Dune smells like the spice.
Yeah, not even the Ixians, as far as I know, have tried to combine organic and circuitry, organic material and circuitry. This is, I don't know. It either bodes well because the rest of the known universe is going to end up killing each other, but at the same time, I guess it's in our back door that they're collecting all this. We're involved, gents.
Tyros, your thoughts?
I don't know. Sounds like blasphemy. It sounds like it sounds like make believe. It sounds like it shouldn't happen, but maybe it is. I don't know. In any event, it's way beyond what we're here for anyway. Right? Our focus needs to be our two comrades. The universe spanning conquest of machines and spice together, I think, is beyond us at the moment.
Agreed. Devarian, do you have anything to add before we plan?
No, but I'd like to take a look at those guys you killed and see if we could salvage those cloaks. It might come in useful.
And this is something that you guys are going to have to sort of decide. Like, as Fremen, are you going to use what you... I mean, I would assume that most of you would find this to be clunky, if for no other reason than you're upset by the fact that people are using artificial means of, like, protecting themselves and, like, shields and all that stuff. But it's up to you guys to decide.
I'm seeing it as more of a disguise for this mission.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like we've got two suits of this stuff, and then we've got those two other guys that we might be able to use it as decoys or something.
Mhm.
Well, these components are organic. We have no idea what it's going to do, and it connects with you, though.
I look at the my cold-hearted friend over there,
Mhm.
and I ask him,
Mhm.
"Do you want to live?"
He smiles. That implies that someday I will die.
So do you want to have a chance to test fate and see how long you have before that day comes? Or would you like to make the decision in this moment?
Only non-Strictians face their own mortality. Strictians live forever.
Good to know.
However,
/throat.
saying all this, you know that he must be bluffing to a certain extent because when you were about to cut his artery, he kind of opened up a little bit. So you get the sense that he's good, he's cold, but he might listen to reason and a blade.
I'll give him the opportunity to listen to reason. And I say, very simply then, you have an opportunity to continue your forever existence without a test. Or you can continue to be cryptic and not clear. And we can test your theory of living forever.
At this point, let's make a quick flashback. Who searched him? Fader?
Me.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
I
go
searched
back.
him and I took all of his stuff off.
Let's rewind 1 hour, and let's make a roll to do a search of him carefully. You took his armor off, but how well did you search him? As far as the skill goes, do you want to call it battle? Perhaps because like you're used to like looking for weapons, or do you want to call it understand because you're just trying to figure out what's going on? What would you like to call it?
I think I'll call it battle.
Got it.
And I'll do that because Fremen are known to stash weapons about their person,
Mm-hmm.
different types of blades all over the place. And and I would probably say duty because
Yep.
that makes sense in the sense that I want to protect my compatriots.
Right. That totally makes sense. Do you have a statement in that at all, or?
Yeah, and these are members of my siege. The siege
Oh, right.
before all others.
Perfect. Love it. Okay,
And
so
duty is that, and I also have battle. I've got told you my statement.
your focus.
Yeah, my focus
Yeah.
was madness and death be my lover before I betray my faith.
Got it. That's perfect. So then what's your rank in battle?
8,
8, and then your rank in duty?
7.
Ooh, very good. So that's a 15. Okay, so go ahead and make... I've got, again, that number in my head, which I'm not going to reveal, but I've got an idea of what your success needs to be.
All right, let's just see what these dice do for me this time. Oh, well, I got 7
Yep.
on one die, and I got a 10 on the other. So I still got, so that's 3 successes.
3 successes. As you move forward and you're about to tell him that he's going to cooperate and he's going to tell you everything you want to know, his smile gets very wide and his jaw clenches. And you smell almonds as he coughs. Inhales. His eyes begin to bulge. And he falls lifeless into your arms. And the very light scent of almonds fills the tent. And you realize that he's just poisoned himself and perhaps gone off this mortal coil, shuffled off this mortal coil. With that, ladies and gentlemen, even though I'm sure Fader wants to argue, he doesn't want to argue, but we are going to take a 10-minute break. If you like what you're watching, please do think about liking and subscribing, and maybe even better, if you can share this somewhere, that would be awesome. Actually, I think that the shares are, in a way, even better than liking and subscribing. So please do think about that. We are going to be back in 10 minutes. Until then, please enjoy the music of Scott Buckley, who has written the theme for tonight's program. And we'll see you in 10. Okay, everybody, we are back. Thank you very much for continuing to tune in for part one of Dune Overture. So, when we last left our heroes, there was, well, a mysterious disappearance among the tribe of two Fremen that had gone missing somewhere at a point equidistant between their siege and Arrakis city. And our four heroes tonight, out while looking for water, have encountered what may indeed be the location of their two compatriots. So we're not really sure about that. So at this point, they've actually captured, well, I would say at least one prisoner, and I would guess that the other two, even though they were freeing them, were also basically captured. And in the final closing moments of the first half of our adventure, they actually, well, they had a rude surprise in the form of the fact that one of their captives, the cold, exceptional criminal, was able to poison themselves and commit suicide before they could extract any further information to help them in their cause. So, you gentlemen have had 10 minutes to think about it, which probably means you didn't do any thinking, because I know if you're like me, we were going to the bathroom, getting drinks, and we're also talking about Walter Koenig and William Shatner going into space. Do you guys have, but that's okay, because actually it's kind of cool that we can record what it is that we're talking about as if it were, a real regular game. What do you gentlemen want to do? At this point, you kind of probably have some things to discuss. So how would you like to proceed?
What do I know about his race? I mean, he stated that they're eternal or somewhere close to eternal. And yet he committed suicide by intentionally overdosing on spice. Is there any possibility he may be just in stasis as opposed to,
Um,
actually dead?
how often do you make it into Arrakis City?
Infrequently, usually just for supplies, maybe once every 5 or 6 weeks at the most.
Then why don't we do this? Why don't you make a roll, which I'm going to say is either communicate or understand as far as a skill goes, and then you can go ahead and choose
Communicate.
your. Okay, cool. So communicate, which is what rank?
6.
6, and then your understand, or I'm sorry, your drive.
In this case, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm trying to understand, his race and understand from where he comes.
Mm-hmm. What's your rank in that?
7.
Got it. So we got a 13 here. And then a statement in that, or a focus in.
The truth always.
Okay, the truth always is
your. I've got no focus in. Well, I've got diplomacy and persuasion, but those I don't think will be applicable.
Okay. Yeah. So go ahead. Again, I've got a number in my head as far as your success, your target number, or I'm sorry, your success.
13 out of 10. So yeah, I hit the number once, so I guess it's 2 successes.
You remember rumors in Arrakis City of a band, and now it clicks. As soon as he suicides, a cult slowly growing among the population. Many of the dregs of mankind often come to Arrakis seeking fame and fortune. Most of them end up dying in the deserts. And the few like yourself that actually make it and win the respect, relatively, of the Fremen are few and far between. But you do remember rumors of a cult called the Strictians, who are quite mortal. But they believe that through spice and through technology, they will live forever. How exactly that is, you're not really sure. You might have to actually search his body or something like that. Um, it might have something to do with his armor. You don't really know. But they are, to a certain extent, deadly serious about their beliefs. Um, and in fact, give me a moment here, and I am going to give you a bit of data about them. Um, the Strictians are often called a new universal order of mankind, and they see plants, animals, and man's inventions, and the universe as perfect or imperfect as those that control or operate them. So in other words, they're totally fine with thinking machines, and they're only as imperfect as man makes them or controls them. They have among them 5 basic pillars: philosophers, poets, warriors, scientists, and pilgrims. And they're led by a college of cardinals. And they move from planet to planet. And the rumors are that they, for some reason, have settled on Arrakis. And many people feel that it's because of the spice. And they hope to hide themselves, perhaps, in the wastelands of the desert. And they believe in the ultimate superiority of mankind should they choose to follow the path of the new universal order of mankind. And they're led by someone by the name of Grayshaw Strict. And no one has ever seen him. Grayshaw Strict. And it's said that Grayshaw Strict is 1,000 years old. But that's just silly rumor.
Of course. All right, I'll convey this to the group. I don't care if the other 2 lackeys are hearing it as well. So
they're kind of stunned when they hear this, and Yars is like, "What?" But the other one, Realm,
yeah,
is,
you're working for a cult or skimming off the top from a cult anyway.
Yeah, essentially. It actually kind of makes him. It looks like he feels better about it. Okay.
Riss, what is their connection, or how are they viewed by the Imperials?
The Imperium, if the Imperium knew about it, they would destroy them and shut them down. They're seen as a risk to the Emperor, even though there are only, well, relatively speaking, compared to mankind, there's just like a handful of them.
Right, and on top of that, if they are looking at intelligent machines, essentially, taking over again, of course, they would be outlaws.
Yes.
So then, if we turned over this group to the Harkonnens, that would give us pretty good favor, don't you think? Put us in a pretty good light.
I look at you and I look and I go, why are we seeking favor with someone who's no longer going to be on Arrakis within weeks, months?
Because we have 2 of our tribesmen trapped in that thing with 20 men defending them. We need firepower.
So you're saying that we should just,
and we're not capable.
Notify the powers that be. There's an interim government, though, right? Is
yes.
That what you told us earlier, Matt?
Yes.
Right.
There is an interim government run by Count Fenring.
Yeah, maybe we could talk to this count and get, clear these guys out and get our guys back.
Do you mention the count out loud like that?
I wouldn't even know who the count was, I don't think.
Yeah, he probably would.
So, Riss, would you mention him?
Well,
sorry, there's 18 different conversations going on. Go ahead. So let me just finish this thing with Riss. Riss, would you mention Count Fenrig out loud? Don't worry, it could only be threat points.
Yeah, what could be wrong by mentioning him out loud? Come on. Why would the GM bring that up at all if it was going to be a problem?
House Fenring is currently in the interim government, and you gentlemen would have to establish diplomatic relations with him without me. Let's put it that way.
So what are you going to say his name or not?
Yeah,
my
I said
question.
Fenring, right?
Yeah, as
Okay.
soon as you say that,
Mhm.
Yars looks really interested. Oh, tell him, and he elbows Realm in the side. Tell him about your friend. Tell him about your friend that works for Fenring. Realm tells you a story about how he does have a friend that works for Fenrig's wife at the palace, and how he had actually hoped to take some of that spice, make it to the palace, and then get off-world using her friendship or using her aid. Now, let's go back on that. Let's go back to Fader. Fader, I'm sorry, what was it that you wanted to interject with?
Basically, I would look at Devarian and be like, and why would we need outsiders to help us get our own?
Do we have the ability to take on 25 armed guys with just the 4 of us?
I didn't think it was 25.
It was 20 to 25. I like how you're thinking positively. It's probably more
And
like 20.
I look at you, I go,
Okay.
and just how are we going to get the Harkonnen here in the same time? So
Who?
we'd either have to go to Arrakis. I mean, we'd either have to go to, the city to inform the Harkonnens and ask for their help, or someone could go back to the siege and get help that way, or because of the timing that a spice mining operation has to work with, we'd have to go in, disrupt everything, free our people, do as much damage as humanly possible, and then we could be on the lookout for this group once again.
Hey,
I wanna-
you're the warrior.
So are you.
Hey, I'm just a novice here. I'll follow your lead. That's fine.
One thing that we're forgetting is that these gentlemen were, for all intents and purposes, being brought out to the middle of nowhere to be either executed or taken back off the planet. There has to be some form of transportation where this battle occurred, whether it be disguised or whatever. If we need to get somewhere quickly, there has to be some sort of transportation.
So just to
and with
remind,
it, some form of communication.
on that note, just to remind you, what they had told you earlier, and I may not have made it clear, is that they did have a large drop ship that was parked in the desert. It's a large U-shaped drop ship from which a ghost shield or a ghost cloak was being projected onto the encampment where they were digging for the spice. And they had also mentioned how it's sometimes there for half a day or sometimes there for a whole day. It depends on what they find spice, whether a worm comes.
Well, then my question is how did they get where we attacked them? Was that next to the entire encampment?
It is. They
It's that
they
close?
said
Over.
Yars just says there's just a few dunes over. Now, who, by the way, to interrupt this, who searched Realm and Yars? Oh, nobody's
I
gonna.
did.
Not
Nobody's.
mine.
I think
Not
I
my
did.
milieu.
Tyros. Okay. So
Mhm.
Tyros, go ahead and make a roll for both of them. I have a difficulty rating in mind, but go ahead and roll. What do you want to? I guess we'll call it either battle or understand. I think kind of like we were saying before for Fader.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll use battle.
Yeah.
That's 7.
7.
I'm trying to figure out the right drive.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't be duty.
Yeah, I guess probably right.
Like Fader.
Okay.
protect everybody. Any statement in that?
It's I quench my tribe's thirst, which was definitely much more appropriate before, but
Yeah, and I mean,
it's still about the
still
tribe and
appropriate.
protecting the tribe, and
Yes, you're trying, right, exactly. You're
trying
trying
to
to
find
feed
my
them,
my
trying to help
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And anything,
All right, well then that's a
8?
It's a 15 then.
So 15.
I don't
Okay.
have any focuses. Right, the focus is short blades.
All right. Go ahead and make your roll then.
I rolled a 15 and a 19.
1 success.
Yep.
So you didn't find much on them because obviously they were taken care of by the the cold exceptional criminal. But
Right.
there was an odd round organic sphere that you've been kind of holding on to this whole time. And now it kind of buzzes and moves in the satchel or the pocket that you were keeping it. And it actually rolls out. And as it rolls out, it tumbles onto the sand. And now you can kind of see the sand is sort of moving lightly because the storm has now come. And this thing rolls forward, and it rolls forward toward the criminal. And then when the dead criminal. And when it hits him, it pops. And it looks like a small little living creature. Like a mouse. And it begins to crawl on him, and little feelers come out. And they begin to kind of like run up and down and over his body. And then it crawls up his chest and then goes into his mouth and disappears. And some of the feelers are kind of sticking out for a moment, and then they just disappear. And it makes these clicks and weird noises. Are you doing
Fader, get your
anything?
blade ready.
Staring in awe.
I turn to Yars and I say, "What the fuck was that?" Pardon my French. It means something different on Dune. Sorry.
Right.
on
It
Arrakis.
means right. It's like it means heck. Yars just he's shrugs. He's like, I don't know what the hell that thing was. And Realm looks up and he says, "It's a medical mouse. It's going to bring him back, or at least try." Do
we want him back?
No.
Then I'll pull out my Mala pistol and shoot him in the face.
It's good. It's good. I like where you're going with this. Just to let you know, it crawled into his mouth, and you're guessing that it went down his throat, so you just blown his face off. But you can still see it if you do that. Like you presume that it's probably in his stomach or somewhere in his chest or whatever. And would you rather just ask? And as you start to do this, Realm just he doesn't touch it because he knows.
That's fine.
He's like,
if he tries to stop me, then
he directs
can.
you.
Yeah.
He just directs you. He's like, you might want to go for the stomach.
Well, I mean, if he ain't got no head anymore, I don't know how much. I don't know if he can repair a whole head.
Well, I assume that he interrupted Diverian before he blew the face off.
All right.
And he's telling him, if you want to go after the creature, to get the creature, right? Is that what you're worried about, or were you worried about the guy coming back?
No, I'm worried about the creature bringing the guy back to life.
Okay. So face or stomach? What are we going for?
I mean,
or both.
I said face. That's what I was thinking.
Okay,
I'm like,
boom.
I don't want this.
Yeah, we don't have to second guess this.
Okay.
And very simply, very easy. When he shoots his face off, I'll just stab through the guy's stomach.
There we go. That's teamwork. It's good teamwork. There we go.
I mean, it wasn't Herbert, but we've all seen Alien, and I don't want that.
That's it.
Face is gone, head is gone, and Vader stabs the stomach. Um, and so with that, the movements that were kind of like moving the body this way and that cease, and rather frustratedly, the creature comes out through the hole that Vader has put in the stomach of
I grabbed that the
medical
orb it came
mouse.
out of,
Yeah,
the orb it came out of, and scoop it up.
it's covered in blood and goo,
Okay.
and it looks like it looks like kind of frustrated and confused about what to do, and little feelers come out and they feel like the face, and then they retract back in, and they feel your face, and they're like, okay, wait, this may be a lost cause, and then with that it bundles itself up into like a little sphere again, and now it looks a bit like now that you know what you're looking at, it looks a little bit more like a rolled up armadillo
Hmm.
rather than a mouse, and it seems to go dormant. And then Realm explains that he doesn't know exactly what it is, but everyone refers to it as a medical mouse, and it's tech from the Strictians, which was given to us. And it works automatically. It works almost all the time. It would have most likely restored him. Perhaps that's something that we could trade you. You could think of it, if you went there, you could get your Fremen allies and perhaps technology to help you.
Do they all carry these things? Where did you get it?
They are common. They were given to us by the Strictians. They supplied us with machinery and a limited amount of machinery in which to
That's why
harvest
they live
the
forever.
spice. So what's our decision here, folks?
Well, I'm all for going to the base and attempting to free our people.
Mm-hmm.
That's my vote.
Don't suppose anybody brought a thumper.
I do
Brought a
have
what?
I think someone did.
I do have
A
one.
thumper. Yeah, I thought I saw that on someone's character sheet.
Mm-hmm.
What is a thumper?
It's
It calls the
basically to
worms.
call a worm.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
If we're facing 25 men, or excuse me, I'm sorry, if we're facing 20 men.
22,
No.
25.
I look at
25 men.
I look at Realm and Yars, and I go, how long does it take you to close up your operation to get off planet when a worm is approaching?
Minutes,
How
depending
many?
on how many of us they decide to save. It could be
How many minutes in a ideal situation?
7 minutes,
Well,
ideally.
then ultimately, someone needs to be able to
And
sneak in and
you
disable the
know,
ship.
do you know where the prisoners are kept?
I don't know where they are exactly now, but they would presumably be taken to cells on board the dropship. Just a few informal cells.
So
Why were they
Reese,
taken to begin with?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
so Reese, probably makes sense for you to take the thumper and set it off at the designated time, bringing the worm in line to cause them to start clearing, which should give us enough of a distraction to get inside and quickly find our people and perhaps gather any information we can. Sound good,
I think
Tyros,
that-
Bavarian?
I don't know, only because
I'm all right with that.
their goal once they know a worm is coming will be to fill the ship, right? So we're trying to get free access in and out of the ship. They're going to be busy loading whatever they can and going. So maybe we use the worm as the distraction to get us out, but not before we get in.
Right.
Let's try to keep.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I mean,
keep it calm. Let's get in and then use
right.
that to get out.
I'm thinking that, and I guess I said it wrong, but I'm thinking that if we tell Reese, 15 minutes after we're inside the base, or if we give a specific signal, perhaps we'll have Deverian fire a shot and he starts the thumper.
I have two issues with that. I mean, it's solid down to these two issues. Number one, the thumper goes off, you get delayed, you are actually going to end up being transported with the ship to who knows where. Second of all, how many of you have actually been in a starship? I at least have a vague understanding of technology, and if you run into anything technological, I'm afraid that I think it should be someone else operating the thumper. I need to be in. I know I'm a liability when it comes to combat. I completely admit that. I'll be a benefit when it comes to the technology.
Okay, I'm gonna agree with that.
Well, if need be, I can carry the thumper.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the thumper has a delay, a timing mechanism built into it. So why don't we just set it right outside the camp, and it goes off when it goes off?
I'm trying to think to my Dune lore. I'm trying to think back. And it would stand to reason that it does have some sort of a timer. Like, you don't want to start a thumper. I mean, they're typically used in order to call a worm for worm riders. Those that, I'm trying to remember if they have a timer or not. And I'm not trying to be a stickler for this, but I'm just sort of thinking, were the Fremen...
The book actually describes it as a timer.
Oh, they do. Okay.
It's usually a candle.
No problem. Done. Oh, really? That is a cool touch. Okay, no problem. Got it. So, the plan
we
is...
set the timer and hope that we give ourselves enough time.
Right.
Now, according to these gentlemen, they'll just be setting up camp somewhere else to extract more spice. So I imagine, we're not going to be taken off world if we mistime this.
Yars interrupts. You won't be taken off world. What would end up happening is you go to the ship in orbit above, which will then take you to another planet or another star system. But to be honest, we're not exactly sure. Well, to be honest, we'll probably stay on Dune, on Arrakis. But I can't really guarantee that. There is a ship that waits up above, and that's where we offload the spice. And the ship is not our ship. The ship is a Strictian ship. The same technology that you see here. That's the ship where we will rendezvous. That's the ship where we offload the spice.
Have you been to this ship before?
Never on it, but we've docked with it. Been part of the process when the spice is offloaded, but we were never allowed on the ship. They usually had their own. These, and he points to the faceless criminal.
Gutless.
The gutless, faceless criminal whose water you may wish to take.
With no face.
So they do the offloading. We are not allowed onto the ship.
You could upload a virus.
Are you thinking Independence Day?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
I
integrate
am
that Mac
taking.
technology.
I'm adding threat just for a reference to
Oh,
such a
no.
horrible science fiction film. At least Star Wars has become like a classic, and we can say
popcorn. It was fun.
Independence
No, come on.
Day. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it was fun.
I
It
once
was
Independence
stupid, but
Day.
it was
insulted.
fun.
No. Now, if he had said Battlefield Earth, I would be with you. But
That is really
Independence
bad.
Day was okay.
I remember once I had a prior life before I was a teacher working in Los Angeles for a movie studio, and I was
Major
talking
movie studio.
a major movie studio, and actually the studio that made that film, and I was talking about how shitty that film was and how terrible, and the person sitting next to me, um, I shouldn't say too much, but somebody sitting next to me turned to me and said, "Hmm, I thought that we worked on that film, Dean and Roland and I worked on that film for a long time. I thought it was actually we did a pretty good job." And I just said, "Oh, did I say it was stupid? I meant to say it was stupid in a good way."
It's stupid, man. It's stupid.
Did I say it was a bad movie? I meant to say it was bad in a really good way. And then I just felt really uncomfortable and just was like, okay, I gotta finish my lunch.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
and
I gotta
Matt
go.
failed his deception role.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I said I had a previous life working at a major
Because it was
movie studio.
bad. And it was
Any-
bad
In
in
order
a
to
bad
convince
way.
him,
Anyway,
in order to convince him, you should have pulled out a knife and started to threaten
It
to
was
stab
bad
him
in a
the
bad way.
and then somebody shot my face off.
Yeah, and then stabbed you in the gut. Let your water ooze into the
Yeah,
dirt.
into the California desert.
All right. So
Anyway,
I think we've got the framework of a plan.
yes, it sounds like a very flimsy framework. Excellent. So let's kind of narrow this down to like 3 or 4 steps. Step 1 is
set the timer for the
Sneak-
thumper. Well, actually, I'm sorry.
Sneak to the camp. We're gonna
Yeah,
sneak up
you
to the
get to the
camp
camp.
okay.
and set the timer.
Into camp is 1. Yep.
Then get into the ship
Get
and
into
find
ship.
our friends.
Okay.
And then step 3 is profit. Step 3
All
is
right.
get out.
So I'm gonna do the classic movie huddle and put my arms around these 4 guys and have a circle so that the other guys can't hear us when we're talking. And I'm gonna say, so how exactly or why exactly should we trust those 2 guys? These are their coworkers.
To remind
I
you,
didn't say
their
I trust
sob
anybody.
their sob story was basically that they were trying to steal some spice so that they could buy the freedom for their families. I'm not saying that should affect you. I'm just saying you would know in your head and you'd be questioning this story.
Well, like I said, I didn't say I trusted any of them. The fact of the matter that there are more aliens here stealing spice and possibly having our kinsmen, it's all worth an investigation to me.
Worth an investigation, sure. Saving our guys, sure. Having them lead us there, are they going to tip them off and flip the switch and we're going to get killed?
Yeah, I don't think
That's a
we should
great
let them
question,
lead us.
Iberian. I mean,
I never
Yeah,
said
that's a
anything
great
about them
question.
leading me anywhere. I mean, like we really need the help of off-worlders to lead us through the desert.
Well, no, they said they know where our guys are. And they know where
No,
that camp is.
Well, he said he knows where the camp is. He did, because when I asked him about where our people were being held, he said he didn't know.
Oh, they didn't know that. Yeah, I'm just wary of bringing
had
them along with us.
They had a guess, but they weren't 100% sure. And that kind of seems true to you. They wouldn't necessarily know.
and Iberian, I mean, it's a great point, primarily because I've never known a cult to have subcontractors. doesn't sound like it would be part of the natural structure of things.
The impression you get is that the
Throwing
cult
that out
is
there.
using them as like a front or something. They're using them for like, well,
Patsies.
yeah, like some sort of plausible deniability. Not that they have to hold themselves accountable to anyone, but they're trying to put like the impression you get from talking with them is that there's a step between the cult and these smugglers, because for them to put themselves out in the open like that makes themselves more of a target, if that makes any sense, you know?
So now that these guys are, we freed them, and maybe I'll just ask them flat out,
Yeah.
what do you guys intend to do? How do you intend to get off world?
They mentioned Count Fenrig one more time, or his wife one more time, and
All right.
mentioned that they hope to gain favor with her. And they say, but please, through all of this, if only you could give us a satchel, a small satchel of spice. It's said that a suitcase could buy a world, but all we wish to buy is the freedom of our families. Please, if you could deliver us that, or let us go. If we're going to help you, we've been very, very cooperative. We appreciate what you've done for us. You can have whatever technologies or riches you find in there. Take as much spice as you wish. Take it for your tribe. But for us,
to be, and just because of the character's nature, he's going to be very flat, cold, and hard. He goes, "You're in no position to offer us anything, nor negotiate anything."
Realm just,
I think, and I said, I think it would behoove you to be quiet. And I turned back to the group.
They say nothing. They saw how serious you were with the exceptional criminal, and they don't want to get onto
They
your
want to
bad
keep
side.
their faces.
Well, that was something they're afraid of.
I look at Tyros, Devarian, and Riss. Is it Riss or Reese?
Reese.
I kept saying Riss.
Actually, Reese, I guess is how it's
Yeah.
got a Z sound at the end.
Yeah, Reese. So I will go with the group consensus on what we do with these two.
They look really panicked when you say that.
Part of me says they are trustworthy. But again, whatever our consensus is at the end of the day.
We could let the desert decide.
Well, I say we tie them up and leave them here, and then we can most likely free them when we get back with our guys. So that way they're not free to cause any problems for us.
We'll pick up and we'll see what happened. I don't know what it was. Oh, good. We've got an excellent connection. Let's just see that this picks up. Okay, everybody. I apologize for that. It looks like for some reason I lost all internet connection here, and I just got it right back. And just to double check, do any of you guys happen to be watching us?
Yeah, the stream's live again.
Okay, that's great. All right. Oh, and I appreciate the fact that you're entertaining people in the chat. The hundreds, if not thousands of people that are watching right now. But that's cool. This is what's really neat, and this is just very much out of the game right now, but what's really cool is that YouTube continues the stream even though there's no data. And so if I just start streaming again, it will pick it up. So the people that are watching live will, they would have seen like a 1 or 2 minute delay or just blackness. But then those people that are watching in a rerun are just going to see a seamless kind of like data drop to like data rise, and it's just going to be like connected. So anyway, I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. The plan, as we left it, was, I believe, in 5 parts, and I will maybe summarize it real quick. You're going to sneak into camp. You're going to set the thumper with a timer. You're going to get into the ship. You're going to find your friends or your Fremen, and then you're going to get out. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, perfect. So then, can we talk a little bit here about how you're going to go about it? Who's going to do what parts, and whether or not you want to kind of settle anything before we move into action?
I just have one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking this could be a way to cause them all sorts of problems. If we use the thumper, wrap it in something that would mask the sound, but put it on the ship itself.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they land, the worms will pick it up. Because if the worms can pick up, a person walking, they'll definitely be able to pick up this thumper, even though those people on the ship can't hear it. But every time they land that ship, they're going to have problems with a worm coming very quickly. Just to, cause problems for them. That's just an idea.
I don't know how long the thumper lasts. I don't know if it's a continuous device. I don't know.
I can ask you to sort of tell me how long it's going to last, but I wouldn't presume, because here's the thing: if the ship is going to go up, leave the planet, it's probably going to be inspected and checked and all of these other things, and then by the time that it sits down, so you're really crossing your fingers that if it lifts off immediately and then it immediately like sets down, you're crossing your fingers that it actually,
If they don't have a full load, they're probably not going to go all the way up in orbit. They're probably just going to try to find another
that
place
does
to land and
that
start
does
working.
that makes some sense. I mean, unless you guys end up doing so much damage to them, and knowing your track record not as Fremen but as my players, you may cause a great deal of damage that causes them to need to go back to their ship to repair.
I have nothing to do with that.
That's right. I don't know, Dean. Every once in a while you do.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, either way, it doesn't make a difference. We can just use it like we said, to get them off planet.
It's a great thought. I just don't think the device does what you want it to do. But it's a great thought. Sort of permanently punish them.
Yeah. So what are we going to do here? So
Let's get moving.
So if we have 5 parts to this,
Yep.
let's go through each part. So getting into camp, and what we're going to do is this. Conflict can play out in Dune Adventures in the Imperium in 5 different ways. So rather than take us through all of the nitty-gritty, tiny little steps, what I think we should actually do is we should kind of like look at the different forms of conflict that we have here. So, oops, that is probably the wrong. Let's see here. All right, I'll just go back to what we had before. So rather than treat all of the little nitty grainy steps and sort of drawing everything out, why don't we just treat it as step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, and 5, and let's try to make our way through each one. So for getting into camp, how would you gentlemen like to proceed? Can you give me your basic idea, and then I'm going to have you make essentially an extended roll to see if you can get through each of these 5 steps without causing a commotion. So for step 1, into camp, how's it going to work?
We're going to move stealth, right? Try to...
Yeah, I would say, probably, I mean, we could try using their equipment. We don't necessarily have to activate it, but try to use their equipment to disguise ourselves.
Yep.
I like this. So you would automatically have, there were 3 of them, so now you have 3 suits that you could actually wear in order to disguise yourselves. Who are the 3 wearing the suits?
I'll probably wear one.
Vader.
We should let Reese wear one. and then I got you can take Devron. You can take it.
Okay.
Okay. And then Tyros, I assume you're gonna like hang back then?
You know what?
No,
Actually,
no.
actually, Tyros,
Let's do
actually,
the old
Tyros-
rope a dope.
So I was going to say, actually, Tyros, you should wear the suit. Let me do my stealth thing with the desert, since that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Reese,
You
what do you?
guys,
Or can I propose something else?
sure.
Make me a prisoner. I mean, the three of you coming in with the prisoner, the old rope a dope.
Do we have a Wookiee suit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll work too.
The binders are too small.
Don't worry, Chewie. I think I know what he has in mind.
Mm.
Okay, so you're gonna do the old prisoner fake out. So one of you is gonna be the prisoner, the other three of you are coming back, and this actually makes a lot of sense because you have enough people to come back with
Build
the
a
prisoner.
rolls.
Anything else you're gonna do to sort of? I'm thinking now in my head the difficulty level of getting down into the camp. Now, when you put on these suits, actually they do come with some accoutrements, shall we say. So you immediately get the feeling that there is, like, it's a little difficult to get on over your still suits, which I presume that all of you are wearing. But once you do get them on, and there's going to be a penalty for movement wearing these suits on top of your still suits. Okay, so I'm going to add a trait.
A little tight in the crotch.
Little bit. I'm going to
Okay,
add a
understood.
trait of difficult movement for that. However, I'm also going to add a trait of possible stealth, because if you want, you are actually able to activate the suits and stealthily cause yourselves to camouflage and disappear. However, on the other hand, you do have a set of goggles that fold down, and the moment that you fold these things down, you realize that you can see your compatriots. So presumably the camp is using the same technology. So when you go into camp, you're going to be able to see them, you presume, but they can also see you. And I'm just telling you that. And now Yars has indicated that like you're you know the spice mining operation, this encampment is just a couple dunes over. So when you head over there, you're going to kind of be seen here any moment. So are you going to simply walk in pretending to be maybe a bound prisoner and then walk into the encampment and see who you can bluff and fool?
Probably
Well, I
so.
was hoping that, yeah, I was hoping it would be unchallenged. I mean, just coming back from patrol or whatever, right?
Yars kind of tells you, well, there are guards on patrol. They move in pairs, and you can expect, it's possible to get past them, but you can expect to see them. On the other hand, the storm has moved in, and he sort of indicates outside, you can kind of see the wind that's blowing out, and that will work in our favor.
I'm going to leave it to the tacticians. Others will decide.
Well, it makes sense to use the storm. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull the goggles on and see how the camouflage activated. Just see how the storm affects it.
You can actually see fairly well, but it's a limited distance. I'm going to say of about, I'm going to say 15 yards. But past that, you're kind of flying blind.
Well, we're Fremen. We're never blind in the desert.
Thank you for correcting me.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I think we use the prisoner routine as just a way to get into the camp itself, and then we can
to get in the
hopefully
position,
avoid
yeah.
people from there. Right.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to go with this?
Mhm.
So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to have one of you roll for everyone. And this is going to represent two zones of conflict. Okay, so you're going to be in your own zone and you're shifting and entering into another here. And so basically, we just want to see if you succeed to make it into the encampment. Once you're in there, as long as maybe you're not up to any funny stuff, you can kind of assume that things are okay. So, who would like to roll? I'm going to say that the skill is move.
I have a 7 in move.
Yeah,
And
you're their leader in that.
and I would say I would use my move and my faith. You know, the fact that I have faith in who we are, what we're doing.
You have a 7 in move. What's your faith?
8.
8. Anybody beat that?
No.
Hmm.
So we have 1 point of momentum in the pool, which you can use to buy D20s. You can give him threat to buy more D20s. And then you have a point of determination, which you can use to either make one of them a guaranteed crit or re-roll once you've done the roll. So
So do you want to buy
resource options?
Yeah, so do you
You know
want
what? I'll attempt to buy an extra die.
Okay, so the first one's going to cost you 1 threat. So I'm adding a threat.
No, the one of our
Oh, you're buying
momentum.
with
We have
momentum.
1 momentum.
Okay, got it.
That's right.
Got
So
it.
we're done with that now.
Before we get started, though, is this a different scene? Can we roll dedication to build up more momentum?
No, it's only if you have 0 momentum.
Yeah, because I think
Oh,
that
that's right.
yes,
If you start with 0.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so
So I have a 15. I don't know if you allow me to use my move. The fact that I, have a focus and move. It is Worm Rider. I know I'm not riding a worm, but I am moving through the desert.
I'm not gonna. No, sorry.
Okay.
A little too much of a
I tried.
stretch.
Hey, I tried. Hey.
If you can find a little worm in the desert and then just if you can get onto it and ride it, I'll count that. Little baby worm.
Okay, so 15 it is. I'm
So
rolling 3
15,
dice.
I've got an idea of a difficulty in my head in order to get into the encampment. So go ahead. You're rolling 3 dice, is this correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
1,
Which counts as 2,
3,
which counts as 1,
and a 2.
which counts as 1 as well.
Wow.
Rolls there.
Good job.
Nice. The 3 of you plus the fake prisoner are able to make it into the encampment, and you actually make your way past 2 troopers who are on patrol, and they come almost out of nowhere as this happens. But because of the sandstorm, and based on their body language, you get the feeling that they're not paying too much attention. They do a bit of a double take because they do see you coming back with that extra prisoner. But for some reason, they don't call you on it, and they allow you to keep going into the camp, and you make your way down
Nice.
toward it. And as you move, the closer you get, you start to see things. I think I said, what was it, 25 or 30 yards?
Yep.
You start to see things come into view. So you see first like machinery, and then you see tents, still tents, and then almost like portable pod office-like buildings where like the logistical stuff sort of takes place. And it's all very, it's a mixture. Mostly the typical sort of smuggler's tech that you would see, like things that are kind of cobbled together to make things work. And occasionally you see other things. This unknown tech that you've encountered, and you realize that there are small generators, it seems like, on each and every one of the still tents or on the equipment that are actually causing this interference that's cloaking them. But then as you move through, what you end up seeing is, well, you get a sort of a feel, and you turn off the the ghost vision that you're using, and you kind of blink a few times, and you can actually sort of see there's a bit of a distortion where these things are, and you can see how it would fool an ordinary person. But now that you've seen how it works, and now that you're out of the desert, or I should say you're out of you're in range of these things, And sure enough, you approach this large, horseshoe-shaped, massive drop ship where you presume your friends are being kept. Is there anything in particular? So this is part 1. You are through that. Now, the one thing we forgot about was setting the thumper timer. So let's flash back for just a moment. Who's setting the thumper timer?
I'll do it.
So let's see how you've set the timer. How long are you setting it for?
10 minutes, you think?
That works.
Yeah.
Is this a precision instrument that is going to give it exactly 10 minutes? I would kind of assume with the Fremen it is, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, make me a quick roll using your understand, and then something else. What's your understand?
My understand is a 6.
Yeah.
I don't know, duty,
Sure. What's
All
your
right.
duty rank?
an 8.
8. 14.
And I have a focus of sandworms in my
Oh,
understand.
got it. Very nice.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and use a point of determination and re-roll because I rolled 2 19s.
Oh, Jesus.
Whew.
That worked out much better. That is a 7 and a 16.
A 7 and a 16. So neither one of those are
Yeah,
crits,
so
but
I
they're
missed my
2
focus.
successes.
That's
Okay,
right.
2 successes. You set it for what you think is those 10 minutes,
Okay.
correct?
Yep.
Is that what you chose? Okay, so you've set it
Yep.
for 10 minutes. So we flash
One
back.
quick point here.
Yeah.
I have a talent that allows me to try and regain a point of determination after I
Of
used it.
course you do. So go ahead and.
I rolled a 16, so I do not get it back.
Okay, all right. So we've got checkpoint 1, which is making it into the camp, is done successfully. The thumper timer is set. And so your next course of action is to get into the ship. And actually, there are 2 ramps where you could enter, one at each end of the horseshoe. And there appears to be another third closed and sealed hatch on the back end at the bottom of the U.
So they're keeping our guys on the ship,
you
or are they
believe
That's what
somewhere?
we think. That's what we think.
They're on the ship. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could search the camp and look around if you wanted, but your
Well,
timer's set for 10 minutes.
what I want to do is, if I could, make a understand roll, because I have a focus on smuggling, which I would assume would give me insight into how a smuggling operation would work.
Yes. Sure. Understand.
Okay.
And what are you going to mix that with?
I will mix that with, how about truth?
Truth. Okay, so what's your understand rank?
So 5.
Yep.
And 7 for truth.
Okay, so 12.
Okay. So I'm going to roll 2 dice. And the idea here is at least get an idea for how a smuggling operation would keep prisoners and where they would keep the important things that we're looking
at the
for.
layout of the encampment and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. There's my 2 dice. 13 and a 15. So those are both failures.
Looking around.
How did you do the rerolls, Jared?
Spin your
I'll do that.
determination.
I'll do that. I'll reroll.
Go ahead.
A 2 and a 9. Much better.
There you go.
That is much better. So with the 2 and the 9, looking around, you've actually taken a look around the camp. What you notice is that there is a particular structure of architecture that looks unlike what you've seen before. And while thinking about the logic of it, you would assume that your captives, these Fremen, are on the ship. This architecture just stands out to you like a sore thumb. And you believe this is something connected to the Strictians. This is more of that technology, and you have a hunch that they're in that. They're not actually in the dropship.
They're not in the ship, guys.
How can you be so sure?
I look at
They're
the
in the-
video. I look and it's just like, explain.
That alien structure, that's where they are. I know it. That's the only thing that fits. It's the only thing that fits. I'm sure of it.
I look at
I'd like to remind everybody we have 10 minutes, and ultimately, are we just going on blind faith?
Yes. That's what we do.
Damn it! I knew it as soon as I said it.
when Tyro says that, I just smile and start headed for the structure. And I look over at Deveri and I go, "You're learning."
Mhm.
Oh, you're using the Fremen way rather than the logical off-worlder way. So you do begin approaching. And outside this structure that looks something like a cross between a tent and maybe a portable office, and actually getting closer to it, it looks a little bit more almost like it's sealed, airtight, which is not unusual in the desert. But there's something different about the airtightness of this particular structure. There's something about, well, there's something about it that stands out to you as different.
I will poke the wall and see what it feels like materially.
It's soft and organic, not unlike your armor that you're wearing. And it's that distinct, well, it takes you a moment, but it's that distinct kind of greenish color. I don't know if I actually mentioned it before, but the armor is green.
Yeah, you did. You did.
And now, as you're poking it, there are two guards at the front end of this structure, and there's a ramp that leads upward. No windows. It looks sealed, and it looks airtight. And now that the desert is, the wind is blowing and all of that stuff, and people are kind of coming and going, and it looks like they're going about their business, and it actually looks like maybe they found a vein of spice, and they're working on it, and so that's probably the only thing that's allowed you to get so close at this point. But those two guards at the front are going to be something to surmount.
Really?
Fader,
Depending on how you
let's
approach
let's use the soft approach. We'll bring Reese over, and I'll call out to the guards and say, we've got another one to put in.
The two guards, who appeared to have been just completely focused on what was going on outside in only their field of vision and protecting this structure, immediately zone in on you, and you know that they've seen you the whole time, they know who you are, and they cock their heads, and one of them approaches you. They looks the Fremen up and down, as Reese clearly is. Reaches out, pulls your breathing tube out, unless you do something to stop him.
Nope, I'm still pretending to be bound.
You bring us another Fremen. So, you took the two prisoners out executed them, of course, and found some Fremen vermin in the rocks, no doubt.
I tried to stop them. I didn't know that there were 3.
He smacks you unless you stop him.
Nah,
No,
we
I
gotta
don't
keep
remember.
up appearances.
That's
right.
And then he
What's
picks you up and starts shaking you, and the two of them start making bets on it, and they bring everyone around, and they form a circle, and then they start beating you, and then Fader,
I should have learned
Siberian,
better.
and
When I joined
Tyros
the
make quite a
military,
bit of money on this, and then they stop it.
That's right.
when I joined the military, they said never volunteer. God damn it! I should have listened.
Well,
Yeah, you did volunteer.
with that, however, they tell you if you wish to. Oh, wait a minute. When my computer went down, so did my Google Notes. So let me just pull that up for a second. And I've forgotten the name of one of the characters here. But in a moment, I'll let you know what that is. But they say that the Cardinal will be very pleased to see one more Fremen. Perhaps we can make this work for our arrangement. Hold on just a moment. We'll be right back and let you know if it's appropriate to bring this one in with the other 2 vermin. And so with that, he disappears. And you do have a second or a moment to sort of talk privately about this while I try to call up my notes.
I don't think this is working, guys. First of all, my jaw hurts. But second of all, I think, I don't know, I'm getting a bad vibe.
Don't take it personally. He might have meant vermin like a hamster, not necessarily like a rat. You know what I mean?
I already forgot that he called me a vermin. Relax. Keep in mind that he's speaking of you as well.
So I go.
Cardinal Thome is the name. And he's
Do
the
both
way
of them
he's,
go inside or just one?
one of them goes inside and the other one remains outside.
What is it? Where is he standing?
See,
He's just standing right beside the door. He doesn't look like he's giving you like a not necessarily a second thought. He might make a remark to you every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm basically not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just watching, prepared to act if necessary.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, the second guard comes back out, and he announces that it's very good news. Cardinal Thome would like very much to see this Fremen vermin. Please, bring him in. And I assume you're just going to do so?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Um,
Get those fake manacles ready, Reese.
all right, so at this point, you have achieved 4 of your tasks here. So you have gotten successfully into the camp. You've set the thumper timer to go off in 10 minutes. You have not gotten to the ship, but you've gotten to the place where your friends, you believe, are staying or are being held. And of course, this must be the correct place because they have told you to bring the 3rd Fremen in to join the first 2 Fremen. The only thing you haven't done yet is to get out, but you had forgotten about one more thing, and that was to actually free them and then get out. But I assume that that's all part of it.
That's all part of it, yeah.
So then the hatch opens up, and of course there are 2 hatches. The first one opens, you make your way inside, and then the second one, or I should say the first one closes, and then the room lights up, and you get the feeling that something is happening, and you feel a slight vibration that kind of makes you a little bit nervous because it's the sort of vibration that brings sandworms. And then the second door dilates open, and the light dims. And now you have a choice. You can stand there, or you can move forward into a room where you just see 2 columns of light and a third far in the back. And it looks like this is just one large space.
We see any sign of our Fremen brothers?
You see under those 2 columns of light what appear to be the silhouettes of Fremen, of humans, I should say. And they're just sort of hanging suspended. Not on anything, but they're almost floating, as if they're on a, I want to say, oh my God, a suspensor? I can't remember what it's called in
Yeah,
Dune.
Spencer.
Suspensor. But there's no visible signs of this. And then whatever is in this third column, it's just a lot of bright light. It's sort of angled outwards, so you can't really see into it.
Let's move forward.
Everybody moving forward?
I'm, of course, waiting to be pushed, kind of forced in there.
That's
But I
right.
turn back to my
Prodded.
party and I say, what have you done to them?
Do you think that I would have like a taser? I could tase Reese a little bit just to prod him forward.
I give you a cattle prod.
Just to
I'll give
make it
you
look
a
good?
sandworm prod. It's only set to like a zillion volts because
Right.
it has to get through the thick hide of a, and you've brought it down to half a zillion for a human.
Oh, that was
So
fun.
you prod him forward, and as you step forward, that second doorway dilates behind you, leaving you in darkness. And in that third, so first of all, you recognize hanging suspended these 2 Fremen. They are alive, but they seem to be in some sort of a field of some sort. In the third column of light, just angles forward so that it's directly in your field of vision, directly into your eyes, and none of you can see what's behind there, but you hear a voice. Leave the Fremen and go. And a dim light. Oh, go ahead.
Who else is in the room besides us?
You only see these 2 that are kind of floating, suspended.
So the
And
other guards.
The other guards are not there.
Okay.
A soft light begins to glow above you. And it moves as if floating like a glow globe. And it opens up, its irises open, and a brighter light begins to envelop Reese. And Reese, if you want to resist it, you're going to have to make some sort of roll against it. Or you can
Right.
go with the facade, with the ruse.
And as the light changes, none of us can see behind it.
Okay, so I apologize. Let me just re-describe. So you have 2 columns of light, each
Yep.
holding Fremen. You assume
Yep.
your Fremen brothers and sisters, whatever they may be. And then there's a single bright light that is shining, kind of like the light that you see like in an interrogation room, that is disguising or hiding, you get the impression, whoever it is or whatever it is behind it. A fourth light appears. And that one, like a glow globe, moves out above Reese and begins to envelop him.
Okay.
I think I am going to resist, because otherwise I have a feeling I'm going to be completely incapacitated.
Before, as all of this is happening, I'm just going to draw one of the knives that these guys were carrying, one of their blades, and throw it into the light, where the person is possibly hiding behind. Just,
Okay. So we're going to make 2 rolls here then. The first roll is going to be for Reese's resistance. So Reese, I have an idea of what the difficulty is. Why don't you use, do you want to use battle, move, or even, I would say, understand?
Move would be the best. I've got a 5 in that.
And with what drive?
Right now, the only thing that really is logical is power, but my statement is the word is more so than the sword.
How can you
I've got
make
no
that work?
liberty without justice. I've got under justice, no liberty without justice. And if that's what I'm ultimately seeking, that would be an 8. But
Count
I
that.
think power makes the most sense.
Okay,
Huh?
so what are your what's your target number then?
Target number combined then would be 13.
Before you roll, for the 3 of us who
Yeah.
have dedication, right? We don't have any momentum in our pool, and this is a new scene. You guys
Is it a
want
new scene?
Yeah, I would count this as a new scene,
Nice.
if you guys want to.
All right. So
Let's roll.
dedication,
you trying to get under your discipline?
discipline. Okay.
I rolled a 5. My discipline's a 6.
So go ahead and add
I
whatever.
got a
you-
My
19.
discipline, my
Oh,
discipline is a 7. Hey, I wrote a 1. Do you get 2 for
Alright.
that?
Nice.
I don't think
I don't think so. Yeah, so
Okay,
we got
well-
2 in our pool now.
Yeah, I
I got
failed.
one.
I rolled a 14.
Okay.
19.
Okay. So then what are we doing here, Reese? You're going to make your roll. What was your total again?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and undo the bonds that were there and just kind of push myself back out.
And we
of the
would
way.
assume that you don't even have to roll to undo the bonds. We just assume that it was done in
Right.
such a way that you could get yourself out very quickly. I think that's logical.
And I'm backing up as opposed to moving forward into the darkness.
Right.
So I want to,
So as he
keep my
moves,
compatriots
as he
either
moves
around
back,
me or.
So what's your
as he moves
target?
back, I'm throwing.
Okay, what's your target number, Reese?
My target number was 13.
13. Okay, go ahead and make.
They get a 1 and a 12, so I got 3.
You got 3.
Wow.
You're able to slip back. And Fader, go ahead and make your attack roll. I assume this is battle.
Yeah, it'll be battle, and my focus. I have a focus, in battle.
Mm-hmm.
Dueling, short blades, unarmed combat, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking duty because these are for my people.
Yes.
And I have the siege before all else. So that's an 8 and a 7. So that's 15.
15. Go ahead and make the roll for that.
Beautiful. One of them would be a success. I mean, a double success because that's a 7. That's below the 8 or the 7.
And you're just
And
aiming
the
for
other
the
one
light.
is a 13. And a 13. So that's 3.
3 successes. You're aiming for the light, correct?
Yeah, I'm just like center mass of the light. So, if somebody's in the light, they're going to get hit. Or if it's a device, I can turn it off, basically.
You hit the light. Reese manages to back out. And as he backs out, you get a feeling, all 4 of you, as if as the air has become like displaced in the room. And as you hit the light, the glow globe, it explodes and sparks rain down.
He was throwing for the
I wasn't throwing at the
interrogation
glow
light.
globe. I was throwing at the interrogation light.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're still hitting a light, which is a glow globe that is just focused in one particular direction. And either way, you hit that, causing sparks to begin to rain down across the surface of this fleshy textured floor you've just realized. And as this happens, the sparks slow and then stop. Their arcs and trajectories stop. And there's a frozen flash of light that turns cold and goes out. And then the sparks, rather than continue on their trajectories, frozen in air, drop to the ground and bounce, and then disappear. And what you see as it disappears is a rather large-looking creature. Distorted, gross, humanoid, but covered in giant fleshy patches. And it steps forward. and it doesn't look very happy. And now the two Fremen that are hanging kind of suspended, the light from that casts a light on this creature that's kind of dripping wet. And it looks like it's sewn together from parts. And I need, well, I'll just say this. What you're looking at is a school of sand trout that have merged with a human being. And that
Gross.
will, at some point, become Shai-Hulud, the worm itself. And this is a process that usually takes hundreds, if not thousands of years. So whatever you're looking at is hundreds of years old. And it steps forward, and it doesn't look very happy. And at this point, I'm also going to say you're probably 2 minutes away from
The thumper going
the
off.
thumper going off. If not even less, but I mean,
I looked at the variant and say, shoot those lights above our people with your Mala pistol, and let's try to get out of here before our hell breaks loose.
Okay.
so I'm going to allow this to happen. But this is essentially going to bring just outright combat at this moment.
We realize it.
This thing is 10 feet tall, and just to sort of refresh everyone's memories and enlighten people that might not know, essentially, human beings are able to merge with schools of sand trout, and sand trout ordinarily become eventually the worm. And so when human beings merge with it, the cilia merge with the flesh, and eventually the human being inside dies, and its consciousness is transferred to the school of sand trout. And there's a sort of a blend of human and the will of the sand trout. And eventually it becomes
They
the
become a
worm
worm.
over thousands of years, and it could even be tens of thousands of years before it's a full-fledged worm. But usually, like, the process is, the beginning of the process, it looks like a suit of armor of some sort, like power armor or something, but it's fleshy power armor. So that's what you're about to start combat with, and you would probably know this. And it usually has the strength of 10 men, 15 at this stage. So, just so we understand, is that what you'd like to start combat with?
Of course, I'm going to make that old classic Fremen quote. Who can turn away from the angel of death? What Shai-Hulud has decreed must be.
Then
And I draw my crisp knives.
Go ahead, and so what you're going to do is you're going to face off against this creature. I assume that the others are going to back him. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll find out. So go ahead, and are you going to charge it?
Well, yes, but it's really a feint maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm going to charge and basically commit myself to looking like I'm about to do something stupid, like dive at it or something.
Right.
And when it strikes, I'm going to feint in the proper way in order to strike it properly.
Okay, so do we want to call this like battle or move?
Still
Battle, definitely battle.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I'm going to go, and I'll go with faith.
Okay, so what are your
because I have
for
faith
those?
in the will of Shai-Hulud. So that's 8 and 8. That's a 16.
8 and 8. Sounds good. So I won't tell you how many successes you need for this.
Well, I do have my blades. I have my blades. So if I roll an 8 or lower, that's 2 successes.
We got 2
guys,
points of momentum.
Could I take a momentum and roll an extra die?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, let's try this. Let's see what we get. Come on, dice. Beautiful. I got a 1, a 7, and a 20.
So you get 3 successes and a complication.
3 successes and a
4.
complication.
4,
No,
so
no,
4 successes.
no, because the
4.
7 is below 8.
That's right. So it's 4.
4
Oh,
and a
right.
complication.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, right. Yes. 4 and a complication. I love this. As you move forward, well, you tell us. How do you move forward? What happens?
Well, of course, it's a typical charge maneuver.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking the thing is going to probably reach out to stop me. So my feint would be a shoulder roll underneath its attack, and I'll slash it with the Chris knife.
So you do so, and you make your move, and you slash at it with your Chris knife. And as you skid beneath it, using the texture of this soft, organic deck plate, if that's what we can call it, the entire ship, or I should say the entire structure, rocks. And you feel that rumble that you know is the worm. And what you realize is everything that was in this encampment was not actually touching ground. It was on suspensors in order to camouflage it from creating vibrations that would call the worm. And the thumper had probably gone off 1 or 2 minutes before. And Shai Hulud is here and erupting because the entire structure begins to tumble and turn. And all of you inside of it are just thrown for a loop, and it throws free those 2 Fremen. But actually, they're not completely free because they're just spinning around, suspended in these 2 columns of light. And it tumbles end over end over end. And I think with this, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a very good place to let off in order to leave you on a nice cliffhanger for what will happen next in Dune Overture. So, if you like what you saw, please do think about liking and subscribing. And like I was kind of saying before, actually a share really goes a long way. We do appreciate it, and those shares really help us out. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I apologize for the drop, but I'm pretty happy to say that those of you watching in a rerun won't even notice. It's going to go by really smoothly. I want to thank my players very much who are really good sports. This is a complex game with a lot of stuff to learn. I'm sure we got a few things wrong, but we basically got it right because I think that I had a lot of fun, and I'm sure they did as well. I also want to thank Dean for coming on the program. Dean is with Cypher Unlimited. You guys should go check out his channel. It's all things Cypher. They do a lot of cool interviews with the Cypher crew, or I should say with Monty Cook Games crew that, of course, published the Cypher system. To all of you out there watching, thank you very, very much, and we hope to see you back. I will announce a date for our next game very soon. It's not going to be next Friday because next Friday I'm going to go see Dune, and I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to go see it as well. But we will be back in another, probably within 2 weeks or so, to conclude our adventure Dune Overture. Thank you all very much, and happy gaming, and stay safe.